Chapter 190. Who killed foster father? Xiao Ran slowly raised his head, his voice growing colder and colder. His eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty red light, as if he was an Azura from hell. The coldness in his bones made people tremble. Hearing this voice, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. They could imagine how miserable the fate of the enemy who killed Lin Feng's father would be. One was the seventh most talented blacksmith in history, the other was the king of the younger generation of the weapon refining sect. No matter who it was, offending them would only lead to death. Even if their enemy was a 6-star blacksmith, they would not be able to sit still. Lin Feng said indifferently, "No matter who it is, it has nothing to do with you." He turned around and picked up the crescent azure dragon saber, a cold light flashing in his eyes. "I will avenge my grudge." This voice was even colder than Xiao Ran's. "Foster father's grudge is also mine," Xiao Ran said in a low voice. "Whether you agree or not, I will investigate this matter thoroughly." "Whatever." Lin Feng turned to look at him, his voice indifferent. Cough cough. At this time, Zhao Duo's cough came from above. Zhao Duo said in a heavy voice, "We understand your feelings. But please stop for a moment. After all, this is the competition grounds." He looked at Lei Ming. Seeing that Lei Ming did not react, he continued, "Gentlemen, my beloved subjects, let us see the quality of the weapons that the geniuses have refined." "All right." Fun Yi and the others nodded. The 6 of them stood up and prepared to walk towards the eastern field. However, at this moment, an unforeseen event occurred. They had just taken their first step when the ground suddenly shook. The magnitude of the shaking was so great that it caused everyone present to fall one after another. If it were not for the sturdiness of the surrounding buildings, it was likely that many of the buildings would have been turned into ruins. Even so, many cracks could still be seen on the walls and ground of the buildings. Everyone was shocked by the sudden tremor. What's going on? Uneasiness surged in their minds. Before they could react, they suddenly heard a deafening sound filled with pain. "Aoo." This voice did not belong to a human. Moreover, the voice traveled far and wide. The entire state of Zhao, the Han dynasty, and the great Qin Empire could vaguely hear it. Just as this painful voice fell, an incomparably carefree voice sounded, "Ha ha ha ha. Everyone in the Greenwood continent, listen up. I declare that from today onwards, the entire setting sun plains, north of the state of Zhao, and west of the great Qin Empire will be my territory. If you're not convinced, you're welcome to find me at the Sunset Plains. I'll definitely satisfy you. That's right, I've just arrived here, so as a gift, I've destroyed a few cities in the Zhao state and the great Qin Empire. I'm sure you'll be satisfied with this gift. Remember, my name is Purple Blood Demon Sage." Ha ha ha. That voice was like a clap of thunder that came from the horizon. Its momentum was great, and it caused the weather to change. Even the ground seemed to submit to the owner of the voice, trembling violently as if it were filled with fear. In the entire Greenwood continent, apart from the demonic beast forest that was unaffected, every inch of land and every living being changed their expressions. Not to mention the numerous 8th stage and 9th stage powerhouses present, even the old antiques and old monsters that had not come out of seclusion for many years were awakened by this voice. Their expressions changed greatly, and there was no lack of Supreme Being powerhouses among them. Yes, even Supreme Being powerhouses had a trace of fear in their eyes when they heard this voice. Powerful, unparalleled power. Even if it was just a voice, it could cause the entire world to crawl under its feet. Then, if the owner of the voice were to attack with all his strength, how terrifying would it be? At this moment, everyone's hearts were filled with fear and shock. They could not imagine how terrifying an expert would have to be to possess such unparalleled power. The owner of this voice was too terrifying. It was a kind of extreme power, unparalleled power, a power that could destroy the world with a single punch or kick. This kind of power had even reached the point where no one dared to have the slightest thought of resisting. At this moment, the entire Greenwood continent fell into a deathly silence. Everyone was shocked on the spot by this sudden voice, and it was followed by endless fear. Zhao Du, Chaoyang Palace. Whoosh! 3 aged figures flashed past, and in the blink of an eye, they appeared on the high platform of the eastern drill ground. Your Majesty. The old man in the lead had an extremely grave expression. Zhao Duo's expression was extremely ugly, but he still restrained himself and asked in a low voice, Elder Mu, do you know what happened just now? The appearance of these 3 old men attracted the attention of everyone present. Flying. Everyone had seen that the old man had flown over with unparalleled speed, and flying was the symbol of a supreme being. Of course, 8th stage earth mages could also fly, but to be respected by Zhao Duo and be addressed as Elder Mu, they were naturally not as simple as 8th stage earth mages. Although the other 2 did not speak, being able to stand beside Elder Mu, their cultivations were naturally not much lower than Elder Mu's. In almost an instant, everyone determined the identities of these 3 old men. Supreme Being. Rumor has it that the royal family has 3 supreme beings guarding it. The country is stable, and no one can break it. I'm afraid these 3 are the rumored supreme beings. Thinking of this, the hearts of the spectators suddenly trembled, and their expressions were extremely humble. For Linfeng, Xiao Ran, and many other genius blacksmiths, who were coming into contact with supreme being experts for the first time, this was a rare opportunity. However, Linfeng did not pay attention to the 3 supreme beings at this moment. At this moment, he was extremely anxious, and his heart was filled with worry. To the north of Zhao Country, Jingmen City Province. Isn't it in the northwest of Zhao Country? He even had the urge to immediately rush out of the eastern drill ground and rush back to Jingmen City Province. It's okay, my younger brother and the rest will be fine. Although he comforted himself like this, he was still extremely anxious, and his breathing became somewhat difficult. Like Linfeng, Qin Ku, Tang Miao, Ling Chongqing, and the rest were also in incomparable pain. Their faces were filled with anxiety, and they could not wait to leave and return to Jingmen City Province. Jingmen City Province was located in the northwest of Zhao Country. Jianglong County was located in the west of Jingmen City Province. Only God knew if Jianglong County was included in the cities that the purple-blooded Supreme Being expert had destroyed. Elder Mu took a deep breath, and his face was extremely solemn. Your Majesty, I'm afraid that even if the 3 of us work together, we won't be able to harm the purple-blooded Supreme Being at all. Hearing this, Emperor Zhao Duo, who had always been extremely calm, finally had a huge change in expression. He cried out involuntarily, "How is this possible? The 3 of you are Supreme Being experts with profound cultivation. Your Majesty may not understand." Elder Mu sighed. There are actually huge differences between Supreme Being experts. Some Supreme Being experts can only flatten a mountain with their full strength, but some Supreme Being experts are so powerful that they can destroy the heavens and the earth. A powerful Supreme Being expert can kill hundreds or thousands of experts who have just entered the Supreme Being level. I can barely be considered a high-level Supreme Being, and Brother Howren and Brother Mingbai are mid-level Supreme Beings. However, that person just now has probably reached the limit of the Supreme Being level. He may have even surpassed the Supreme Being level and stepped into the legendary Earth Sage. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to create such a terrifying scene. This was the first time that the surrounding people had heard of such a theory. It turned out that there was such a huge gap between Supreme Beings. Is there really no other way? Zhao Duo asked unwillingly. When he heard Elder Mu speak of the enemy's strength, Lin Feng's heart sank even more. He prayed in despair, "Lin Yun, you guys will definitely be fine." Xiao Ran, who was at the side, also felt his heart sink to the bottom. This was because he also remembered where Jianglong County was at this moment. Other than obeying, there's no other way. Elder Mu laughed bitterly. Facing such a powerful enemy, what else could they do? If they chose to fight, only death would await them. They might even lose the entire Zhao country. Did they dare to take the risk? Zhao Duo was silent. The three supreme beings were silent. The nearby spectators were silent. The geniuses in the Eastern Academy were also silent. However, amidst the dead silence, Lin Feng said slowly, "Your Majesty, I'm afraid I can't participate in the finals of the Youth Masters Tournament." Hearing this, everyone looked at Lin Feng in confusion. "Why do you say so?" Zhao Duo took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He forgot what the purple-blooded demon sage had said and asked with concern. Even under such circumstances, he still couldn't ignore the existence of Lin Feng. He couldn't ignore the existence of the seventh genius in history. Lin Feng looked at Zhao Duo and said solemnly, "Because my younger brother is still in Jingmen City Province. My disciples are also in the Jingmen City Province. No matter what, I have to find them." This. Zhao Duo hesitated for a moment. His eyes flickered. Finally, he seemed to have made up his mind and said, "Okay, I allow you to withdraw from the Youth Masters Tournament." Lin Feng cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Then, he turned around and was about to leave. "Wait," Zhao Duo said again, "no one knows the current situation in Jingmen City Province. I'm afraid that your trip will be dangerous. You're a genius of Zhao country, a pillar of the country in the future. How can I ignore you when you're in danger?" Then, he looked at Zhong Wei and bowed slightly. "Teacher, are you willing to personally escort Lin Feng and bring his family and disciples to the capital?" Zhong Wei said in a deep voice, "As long as I'm not dead, Lin Feng will be fine." This could be considered a military order. Hearing this, Lin Feng was overjoyed. With a rank 9 Earth warrior escorting him, he could avoid most accidents. Moreover, Zhong Wei was known as the strongest rank 9 Earth warrior in Zhao country. His combat strength was even more terrifying than ordinary rank 9 Earth warriors. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Lin Feng said sincerely. Although Zhao Duo's move was to buy people's hearts, Lin Feng had to accept this favor. P.S. The second chapter is now available. A new chapter, The Vast World, is slowly unfolding. The plot will also become more and more exciting. In addition, I only need 19 more monthly votes to rush to the first place. 19 more monthly votes. Everyone, is it possible for you to lend me a helping hand? Tonight, until the wee hours, there are still 3 more chapters. Chapter 191. Just as Lin Feng, Qin Ku, Tang Miao, Ling Chongqing, and Zhong Wei left, Xiao Ran finally couldn't help but speak. "Master!" With a heavy heart, he pleaded, "Master, please allow this disciple to accompany Lin Feng to Jingmen City Province." The conversation between Xiao Ran and Lin Feng had entered Lei Ming's ears. He understood that if he didn't agree to let Xiao Ran go to Jingmen City Province, then there would be an irreparable rift between them. Moreover, it was normal for Xiao Ran to go. Why should he make things difficult for this disciple? Forget it. Go and come back quickly. Lei Ming waved his hand, "Be careful. After you come back, immediately come to the capital to see me. I will wait for you at the Breeze residence." Xiao Ran said gratefully, "Thank you, Master." After that, he turned around and chased after Lin Feng and the others. Alas! Lei Ming let out a long sigh. He was also very helpless after such a thing happened. Fortunately, with Zhong Wei, this super expert, protecting him, he didn't have to worry too much about Xiao Ran's safety. Even the number 1 expert under Yun Jingtian was far from being Zhong Wei's opponent. Since Zhong Wei dared to call himself the number 1 person under the Supreme in Zhao and the leader of the 9th stage Earth Warriors, he naturally had enough confidence. In terms of defense, Zhong Wei had a 1-mark spiritual weapon level purple armor. His cultivation was unfathomable, and his elemental energy was incomparably vigorous. Even if he was hit by a 9th stage expert with all his strength, he wouldn't suffer too much damage. In terms of attack, Zhong Wei had the 3-mark spiritual weapon 6 feet thunder spear, and his understanding of the law had faintly touched the edge of the mysterious explosion law. Coupled with his vigorous elemental energy, his every move was extremely powerful. In terms of speed, he wasn't the fastest among the 9th stage experts, but his instantaneous explosive power was extremely strong. Whether it was attacking or dodging, it only needed a short moment. Therefore, Zhong Wei could be said to be a 9th stage Earth warrior without any weaknesses. It was very difficult for anyone under the Supreme to hurt him, let alone defeat him. Of course, the so-called no weakness was only relative. If he were to face a Jizuan, he would be powerless. From this, one could see the importance of a weapon and a piece of equipment. Any high-ranked weapon refiner would possess high-quality weapons and high-quality equipment at the same time. No matter how weak they were, the combination of the two would be able to produce an unexpected effect. On the other hand, if they already had a relatively high cultivation base, then the two of them would be like tigers that had grown wings, greatly increasing their battle prowess. This was the terrifying aspect of a high-ranking armament master. Not long after, Zhao Duo hastily announced everyone's scores and rankings. Then, he left the Eastern Drill Ground to discuss important matters with the 3 supreme martial artists. Yang Luqing, Zhang Kuang, and the others also left the Eastern Drill Ground in a hurry, their whereabouts unknown. After a while, the Eastern Drill Ground became deserted. Except for a few soldiers who were moving the refining tools in the Eastern Drill Ground and a few palace maids who were cleaning the surroundings, no one else could be seen. Too many things had happened today, and they needed some time to slowly digest them. The genius of the weapon refining sect had entered the finals to compete with Lin Feng. Lin Feng had exposed his identity as a 5-star armament master and was ranked 7th in history. What was even more unexpected was that there was such a dispute between Xiao Ran and Lin Feng. No matter which one of the things mentioned above, it was enough to shock them. However, what shocked them the most was still the mysterious purple blood demon sage. A legendary earth sage who was suspected to be at the limit of a supreme martial artist, or even beyond that. The shock that such an expert brought to everyone was undoubtedly shocking to their very souls. When they came, they were all excited, but when they left, they were all anxious and worried. They didn't even have the energy to pay attention to the final scores and rankings of Tang Dingtian and the others. The genius armament masters silently returned to Zhao Ying Pavilion. After that, each and every one of them trained in silence, not saying a single word. Countless people in the entire Greenwood continent were in a state of panic. Especially the people in the provinces to the north of Zhao country and the west of the Great Qin Empire. They were in constant torment. Their lives were threatened at all times, and they were in constant fear. The atmosphere of panic pervaded the entire Greenwood continent. In the imperial capital, a group of people shuttled through the majestic city gates, kicking up a cloud of dust on the ground as they sped away. This group of people was naturally Lin Feng's group. However, Xiao Ran was also in the group. Lin Feng didn't agree to let Xiao Ran join the group, but he didn't object either. From the beginning to the end, he didn't say a single word to him. Xiao Ran felt guilty. He knew that he owed the Lin family, so he wasn't angry at Lin Feng's attitude. After leaving the city gates, the group was led by Zhong Wei. They traveled day and night. Every time they reached a city, they would change horses and abandon the original ones. They continued to travel at their fastest speed. Faster, faster. Lin Feng couldn't wait to rush back to Jingmen City and Jianglong County. Along the way, Lin Feng, Qin Ku, Tang Miao, and the rest were all worried about the safety of their families. They didn't have the mood to talk. If they could go faster, they would go faster. If they could save 15 minutes, they would save 15 minutes. One day, 2 days, 3 days, unknowingly, 7 days had passed. After 7 days of traveling day and night, the group finally got close to Jingmen City province. According to their current speed, they would arrive in less than 2 days. Nothing must happen to you all. The group prayed in their hearts. On the 8th day, they arrived at Stone City. Stone City was a city adjacent to Jingmen City. Its area was slightly smaller than Jingmen City. However, when they arrived, they saw a shocking scene. On the wide road, there was a dense crowd of people. They were either carrying bags or dragging wooden carts. Like disaster victims, they were rushing in the opposite direction. Seeing this scene, the hearts of Lin Feng's group sank. Did something really happen? They had a bad premonition. Sure enough, when they stopped to ask around, the bad premonition in their hearts was confirmed. The provincial capital of Jingmen City happened to be one of the cities destroyed by the purple blood monstrous sage. As for the other cities that were destroyed, they were all located to the west and north of Jingmen City. According to their description, there was a sudden burst of laughter in the sky above the city. Just as the laughter ended, a palm that seemed to be bigger than the sky slapped down from the sky. It attacked indiscriminately. Suddenly, the ground cracked and the buildings turned into ruins. Many people were smashed into meat patties. Not even their bones were left. Only a few people survived in the entire city. They were either extremely powerful and barely withstood the attack, but they were also seriously injured. Some were in relatively sturdy basements, and some just happened to be in between the fingers of the palm and escape. The entire provincial capital had a population of more than 10 million people. Under this slap, more than 90% of the people had died. Damn that purple blood monstrous sage! When they heard this news, their eyes instantly turned red. At this moment, they were even more anxious. However, an old man who had escaped from a city in Jingmen City that had not been attacked advised, "It's best if you don't go back. Many people in Jingmen City have already escaped. Those who didn't escape have no hope of survival," he said with lingering fear. Now, most of the areas in Jingmen City have been occupied by a large number of powerful demonic beasts. Even if you have the strength of rank 6 or rank 7, it will still be difficult for you to escape from Jingmen City. There were all kinds of demonic beasts flying in the sky and crawling on the ground. The situation was precarious. "Thank you, but we have to go back." Lin Feng thanked him, mounted his horse, and galloped on the side of the road again. Qin Ku and her companions followed him without stopping for a moment. Zhong Wei stayed beside Lin Feng to protect Lin Feng at all times. When the dense crowd on the main road saw Lin Feng's group charging over on horseback from afar, they immediately made way for them. They could not help but feel pity in their hearts. "I'm afraid none of them will be able to return." When Lin Feng and the others arrived at the provincial capital of Stone City, Zhong Wei suddenly stopped them. Pulling the reins, Lin Feng stopped the horse and asked with a frown, "Sir Zhong, the situation is critical now. Time is limited. We can't waste any time." Zhong Wei said, "I have my reasons for asking you to stop. As you said, Jingmen City is now full of danger. Powerful demonic beasts are entrenched everywhere. There may even be some demonic beasts that even I can't handle." His face was very serious as he said solemnly, "Therefore, before you return to Jingmen City, you must arm yourselves. Try to improve your strength as much as possible. Otherwise, don't talk about saving people. It's already very good if you can keep your own life." Hearing this, Lin Feng said, "Although that's the reason, improving one's strength is not something that can be done in a day. Without a year or so, I'm afraid the results will be minimal. Can we wait that long?" "No, you misunderstood me." Zhong Wei shook his head. "There are 2 ways to improve one's strength. One is to improve one's actual combat strength, and the other is to rely on external objects. He looked at Lin Feng and said solemnly, "You are now a 5-star blacksmith and have the ability to refine equipment. As long as you spend some time refining a piece of equipment, it will greatly improve your resistance. At the same time, you have a 3-mark spiritual weapon, so your attack power cannot be underestimated. With this, you will barely be able to protect yourself in Jingmen City, which is full of dangers." Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He hadn't thought of this before. "It seems that I've underestimated high-level blacksmiths in the past," Lin Feng thought to himself. There was naturally a reason why high-level blacksmiths could have such a high status. Although he was extremely anxious at this time, he had to consider the safety of everyone present. He couldn't let everyone die together with him. Since it could increase everyone's chances of survival, he didn't mind putting in some effort. However, where could he find rare materials? P.S. The third update is here. There are a lot of things to think about and weigh for a new volume. Therefore, the speed of writing is so slow that even I can't believe it. But no matter what, I will finish writing the promised update by dawn. I am 14 votes away from first place. Does anyone still have monthly votes? Chapter 192. Rare materials aren't a problem at all. Zhong Wei smiled faintly. "Let's go. Follow me. I have a way to get enough rare materials for you." Lin Feng and the others followed him suspiciously. Not long after, the group of people arrived in front of a huge mansion on their horses. The provincial governor's mansion. Lin Feng and the others were enlightened when they saw the words carved on the plaque hanging in front of the mansion. As Emperor Zhong Wei's tutor, it shouldn't be a problem for him to get the provincial governor to prepare some rare materials, right? The provincial governor's mansion was heavily guarded at the moment. Soldiers were on standby with solemn expressions. "Stop right there." A group of soldiers blocked Zhong Wei's path. Zhong Wei didn't waste any time. He tossed out a gold medallion and said, "I want to see your provincial governor." One of the soldiers took the gold medallion. They looked at it carefully and saw that one side of the medallion was carved with the words, "As if I'm here in person." The other side was stamped with Emperor Zhao Duo's seal. "Please wait for a moment, sir." The soldier immediately returned the gold medallion and said respectfully. Zhong Wei nodded. "Come back quickly. We don't have much time." The soldier immediately nodded, turned around, and ran into the mansion. Soon, a middle-aged man walked out. "Sir Zhong." The middle-aged man recognized Zhong Wei from afar. He quickly walked over and said respectfully, "I didn't know you were here, Sir Zhong. Please forgive me for not coming out to greet you. May I ask why you're here, Sir Zhong?" He thought Zhong Wei was sent by Zhao Duo to deal with the Purple Blood Overlord. Zhong Wei didn't explain. He said directly, "Please take out 30 sets of rare materials. We urgently need them." The middle-aged man didn't ask what Zhong Wei wanted. He said straightforwardly, "I'll send someone to get them. Please wait for a moment, Sir Zhong." Although 30 sets of rare materials consumed almost half of the provincial governor's inventory, he didn't dare to refuse Zhong Wei if he needed them. Whether it was Zhong Wei's identity or Zhong Wei's strength, it was not something he could compare to. "Wait," Lin Feng suddenly said. "I suggest that 15 of the rare materials be milder in nature, and the other 15 be more ferocious." "This." The middle-aged man hesitated. "His opinion is my opinion." Zhong Wei waved his hand. "All right then, please wait a moment," the middle-aged man said. Soon, 20 sets of rare materials were brought over. "Do you have a crafting room here?" Lin Feng asked. The middle-aged man glanced at Lin Feng and was very surprised, but he still replied, "Yes, the last few rooms in the east courtyard are all refining rooms." "Take us there," Zhong Wei said. Time was of the essence, so they didn't bother to introduce themselves and went straight to the east courtyard. After entering the house, Lin Feng said, "Wait a moment, I will try my best to speed up the refinement." Qin Ku, Tang Miao, Ling Chongqing, and the others nodded. They stood at the side and watched quietly, waiting patiently. At this time, they had no choice but to be patient. After all, they also had a share of the equipment that Lin Feng refined. The middle-aged man opened his mouth wide and couldn't help but ask, "This is..." Zhong Wei frowned. "Don't make a sound." "Air." The middle-aged man swallowed his words at once, but there were stormy waves in his heart. "This little fellow is a 5-star craftsman? Such a young 5-star craftsman?" He had never even heard of such a young 5-star craftsman, let alone seen one. However, rare materials were materials used to refine spirit weapons and couldn't be used by non-5-star craftsmen. This was because only techniques that were integrated with the profound meaning of the earth could bring out the effects of rare materials. Otherwise, not only would they not be able to bring out the effects, but they would also destroy the materials. Huff! Lin Feng took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down in the shortest time possible and enter the crafting state. The next moment, he lit the furnace and raised and stabilized the flames as fast as he could. Bang bang bang! He took out 3 materials and put them into the furnace. When the materials were heated to the best temperature, he suddenly swung the giant hammer. In an instant, the mysterious aura and invisible ripples spread out once again. An amiable aura surrounded everyone present. Last time, in the finals, the distance was too far, so they couldn't see clearly enough. But this time, they were lucky enough to witness Lin Feng's crafting from a close distance, and they could feel the traces of a pattern that didn't seem to follow any pattern. They subconsciously closed their eyes. In that darkness they seemed to see everything in the world. They saw the earth breeding all things and evolving the world. They saw that picture scroll slowly unfurling. They were immersed in it as if they had gone through a sweaty baptism, a baptism of the soul. For the first time, they felt that the earth had silently given everything for them. However, they had never cared about it before. When Lin Feng finished refining the first weapon, they slowly woke up. Unknowingly, tears fell from the corners of their eyes. However, the tears had already dried. Other than a slightly cold feeling on their faces, there was no trace of them left. The others didn't have any reaction, but Zhong Wei's heart was set off by stormy waves. This time, at close range, he finally caught that trace of law fluctuation. Lin Feng has already comprehended the law. He couldn't believe it. His first thought was, "No, impossible." However, he immediately shook his head. That's right. This is indeed the fluctuation of the earth law. However, he couldn't understand no matter what. Lin Feng's cultivation was clearly not high and was thousands of miles away from being a supreme. How could he comprehend the earth law that was said to be necessary to advance to supreme? What was even more coincidental was that he could actually feel a trace of intimacy from the fluctuation of the earth law. It even made him faintly closer to the edge of the profound explosion law. He understood that only the same earth law could give him such a feeling. Could it be that Lin Feng also walks the path of the profound explosion law? No one could tell Zhong Wei the answer. Everything could only be guessed by himself. If he could feel what Qin Ku, Tang Miao, Ling Chongqing, and the others were feeling at this moment, perhaps he would find it even more strange. This was because Qin Ku and the others also felt the same sense of intimacy. The provincial governor at the side finally believed this shocking fact. This young man who looked to be around 20 years old was actually a 5-star weapon refiner. He immediately felt deep respect and didn't dare to underestimate this young man anymore. Qin Ku, although this armor isn't perfect, I hope it can ensure your safety on this trip. Lin Feng handed the armor that he had refined to Qin Ku and said in a low voice. Qin Ku took the armor and said gratefully, "Thank you." Lin Feng shook his head and didn't say much. He turned around and immersed himself in refining again. Double-striped spiritual armor. Before Qin Ku put on the armor, Zhong Wei couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "It's actually a double-striped spiritual armor." Hearing that, Ling Chongqing and the provincial governor also exclaimed in unison. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. There were actually 2 lines on the armor, and the color was extremely deep. They reflected each other's brilliance, and the special effect was undoubtedly very shocking. Zhong Wei said enviously, "Your armor." He touched the purple armor on his body and was rather depressed. "It's much more powerful than the purple armor that I've worn for many years. One had to know that this armor was a gift from Emperor Zhao Duo when he became a disciple. Moreover, his purple armor was considered rather powerful among the one-stripe spiritual armors. The color of the lines was extremely deep, and it was very close to a double-stripe spiritual armor. However, one-stripe spiritual armor was ultimately one-stripe spiritual armor. There was still a gap that couldn't be ignored between it and a double-stripe spiritual armor. The defense of the worst double-stripe spiritual armor was far higher than the best one-stripe spiritual armor. And this double-stripe spiritual armor that Lin Feng had refined had 2 lines that were extremely deep in color. Among all the double-stripe spiritual armors, it was also ranked at the top. Hearing Zhong Wei's words, Qin Ku finally understood the extraordinariness of this armor, and he was instantly overjoyed. Ling Chongqing sighed. Spiritual armor is difficult to refine in the first place. The average 5-star artificer doesn't dare to refine it easily because the failure rate is too high. Even the wealthiest 5-star artificer will become a pauper in an extremely short period of time under the extremely high failure rate. Therefore, most of the spiritual armor circulating on the market is ordinary armor, refined by 5-star artificers using fusion techniques and mixing heavy metal materials. In terms of defense, it's more than 10 times worse than spiritual armor. Spiritual armor is extremely rare, and most of them are in the hands of high-ranking artificers. It can be said that it's something that can only be found by chance. If a one-stripe spiritual armor is already so precious, the value of a double-stripe spiritual armor is even more immeasurable. The rarity of a double-stripe spiritual armor even exceeded that of a 3-stripe weapon. The rarer something was, the more valuable it was. Then the value of a double-stripe spiritual armor was also unimaginable. Spiritual armor is a rare item. Not to mention us, even among high-ranking artificers themselves, only those who are especially skilled in artificing can possess it. Although there are occasionally ordinary 5-star artificers who are lucky enough to refine spiritual armor, that's only an isolated phenomenon. And ordinary spiritual armor is not of much use to us, unless it's an extremely high-quality 3-stripe spiritual armor. The provincial governor's eyes were burning. If it weren't for Zhong Wei, perhaps he would have thought of a way to get Qin Ku's double-striped spiritual armor. His heart was filled with regret. This is a double-striped spiritual armor. Its preciousness exceeded that of a 3-stripe weapon's double-striped spiritual armor. Feeling the fiery gaze from the provincial governor, Qin Ku immediately tightened her grip on the armor in her hand. She secretly remembered Lin Feng's favor in her heart. If it were any other time, he wouldn't dare to accept such a precious item. But they were about to face countless dangers in the Jingmen City province, and he had no choice but to accept Lin Feng's gift. Lin Feng, I, Qin Ku, will remember your kindness in giving me this armor. Qin Ku silently said in his heart. P.S. The 4th update is presented. Seeing that there was only a difference of more than 10 monthly votes, could it be that he really couldn't make it? Chapter 193. Xiao Ran stood at the side. Right from the beginning, he did not say a single word. However, his eyes were filled with gratification. He did not know when Lin Feng had activated his talent in weapon refinement and it was unstoppable. However, He was happy and proud for Lin Feng that he could achieve such an achievement for Lin Feng. On the other side, Qin could put on the double-patterned spirit armor and felt strands of energy swimming around his body, protecting him like a boulder. He was even more grateful to Lin Feng. Tang Miao, Ling Chongqing and Zhong Wei continued to observe Lin Feng's weapon refinement. Provincial Governor Shi Cheng lowered his head, deep in thought. The crafting room became quiet once more, without the slightest sound. However, if one listened carefully and felt with one's heart, one would seem to be able to hear all sorts of sounds, whether it was the impact of rivers, volcanic eruptions, the collapse of the earth, thunderclaps of clouds and rain, or drizzling rain, trickling water, the rustling of grass in the wind, the chirping of cicadas, and all sorts of other things in the world. Just like that, after a moment, when everything disappeared and everyone woke up, Lin Feng had refined another set of armor. Yours. Lin Feng handed the armor to Tang Miao. Without saying anything else, he turned around and immersed himself in weapon refinement once more. Ling Chongqing and the others looked at the freshly refined armor. When they fixed their gazes, they were shocked once more. Another double-patterned spirit armor. Furthermore, the color was even darker than the first double-patterned spirit armor. They exchanged glances and were even more shocked. Refining a double-patterned spirit armor could be said to be a coincidence or luck. However, what about refining two double-patterned spirit armors? Furthermore, the quality of the second double-patterned spirit armor was even higher than the first. This was clearly not something that could be explained by luck and coincidence. Lin Feng's weapon refinement ability has probably reached an extremely profound level. Zhong Wei said solemnly, only 6-star weapon refinement masters have a certain chance of successfully refining this double-patterned spirit armor. Most 5-star weapon refinement masters don't even dare to try. Lin Feng, on the other hand, has refined 2 of them in a row, and each one is more powerful than the other. Qin Ku, Tang Miao, and the rest smiled bitterly. What else could they say? Looks like being able to become the 7th genius armament master in history was much more powerful than what they had imagined. At this moment, the provincial chief Shi Cheng's expression turned serious, and the way he looked at Lin Feng changed drastically. A young 5-star weaponsmith was already worthy of his attention, and this young 5-star weaponsmith had a particularly outstanding talent in refining spiritual armors. His success rate in refining double-mark spiritual weapons was so high that even those 6-star weaponsmiths were inferior to him. If he could make friends with such a genius, then his future gains would be beyond his imagination. We must build a good relationship with him. Governor Shi Cheng clenched his fist. Lin Feng's refining speed was extremely fast, and in a short while, he had finished refining once again. Another success, another double-striped spirit armor. At this moment, Lin Feng displayed a frightening success rate that shocked everyone. Before anyone could react, he handed this double-striped spirit armor to Ling Zhongqing. This spirit armor belonged to Ling Zhongqing. I have one too? Ling Zhongqing was a little excited. He didn't expect that he would also have one. Is this really for me? The dignified 8th-level Earth Sorcerer, the provincial chief of Jingmen City, was now like a country bumpkin who had never seen the world. Why was this so? If he had to blame something, he could only blame the rarity of the double-patterned spirit armor. Not to mention the double-patterned spirit armor, Ling Zhongqing didn't even have a 3-patterned spirit weapon. His weapon was only a double-patterned spirit weapon, and he had spent a lot of effort, a lot of money, and a favor to ask Fu Yuanshan to refine it for him. He had always regarded it as a treasure and didn't show it to others easily. But now, Lin Feng was going to give him a double-patterned spirit armor that was even more precious than a 3-patterned spirit weapon. How could he remain calm? Thank you. He took the double-patterned spirit armor. From this moment on, he knew that he owed Lin Feng a big favor. Even most 9th-level Earth warriors didn't have a double-patterned spirit armor, but he had one. Looking at Zhong Wei's envious gaze, Ling Zhongqing felt an inexplicable sense of pleasure. Time passed quietly and the sun slowly set. In the east courtyard, in this inconspicuous little refining room, one after another, double-striped spirit armors that caused countless experts in the outside world to be incomparably moved were born. After Qin Ku, Tang Miao, and Ling Zhongqing, Zhong Wei also got a double-patterned spirit armor. Zhong Wei got what he wanted and was very happy. At this moment, he suddenly felt that Zhao Duo asking him to escort Lin Feng was really a good job. If not, how could he get a double-patterned spirit armor? Back then, he asked Fan Yi to help him refine a double-patterned spirit armor. In the end, he spent a large amount of rare materials and failed at the last step. It wasn't that Fan Ye's refining ability was inferior to Lin Feng's, but the difficulty of refining armor was too high, especially double-patterned and three-patterned spirit weapons. Even if a 6-star refiner made a move, the chances of failure were not low. If it was just refining weapons, then Lin Feng was naturally inferior to many 6-star refiners. And if it was just refining spirit armor, then Lin Feng was very likely to be above the 6-star refiners. When the 5th double-patterned spirit armor was successfully refined, the shock on everyone's faces grew stronger and stronger. 5 consecutive refinements. Originally, the reason why Zhong Wei asked for so many materials was because any high-level refiner would have a certain chance of failure when refining spirit armor. Even a 6-star refiner wouldn't dare to say that he could refine a single-patterned spirit armor with a 100% success rate, let alone Lin Feng, a young boy who had yet to become a 6-star refiner. At this moment, Lin Feng had already refined 5 spirit armors with a 100% success rate. Moreover, all 5 spirit armors were double-patterned spirit armors. Crazy. Everyone present, including Xiao Ran, was about to go crazy. Although I didn't want you to come, since you're here, I can't turn a blind eye. Lin Feng looked at Xiao Ran indifferently. After saying that, he threw the double-patterned spirit armor to Xiao Ran. The provincial governor's heart instantly ached. This is a double-patterned spirit armor. Can you be more careful? Of course, he didn't dare to say this out loud and could only complain in his heart. Receiving the double-patterned spirit armor, Xiao Ran's lips curled into a smile. You're still the same as before, hard on the mouth but soft on the heart. However, he accepted this double-patterned spirit armor. Whatever you say. Lin Feng did not object. He turned around and looked at the remaining rare materials. 30 sets of rare materials and 5 double-patterned spirit armors. Half of them had been used up, so there were still 15 sets of rare materials left. He thought for a moment and divided the 15 sets of materials into 3 piles. 2 of the piles only had 3 sets of materials, while the other pile had 9 sets of materials. What does he want to do? Lin Feng's actions aroused the curiosity and puzzlement of the crowd. He didn't explain to the crowd and instead threw himself into refining again. This time, it was still 3 sets of rare materials. After a long time, 2 double-patterned spirit armors were born. The success rate continued to be 100%. The crowd was already numb. Of these 2 double-patterned spirit armors, one was placed to the side and the other was given to the provincial governor of Shiqing. The provincial governor of Shiqing would not refuse the double-patterned spirit armor that was close at hand. He very readily accepted the double-patterned spirit armor. While he was grateful, he didn't forget to be polite. Thank you for the armor, sir. Lin Feng nodded and didn't say anything courteous. He had to cherish every minute and second. Naturally, he couldn't waste these courteous words. The crowd couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Perhaps he was born to refine armor. In front of such a high-quality armor and such a frightening success rate, who could refute? When everyone, including Lin Feng himself, already had a double-patterned spirit armor, Lin Feng didn't stop. Instead, he continued to the side of the furnace, lit the flame, and once again, raised the temperature and stabilized the flame. 1 set, 2 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets, a total of 9 sets of materials were all thrown into the furnace. His actions at this moment couldn't help but stupefy everyone present. In almost an instant, the crowd had already guessed his intentions. 9 sets of rare materials. What he wanted to refine was a 3-patterned spirit armor. Thinking of this, the crowd's eyes widened and their eyelids twitched. Crazy, Lin Feng is simply crazy. In their view, Lin Feng's actions were undoubtedly extremely crazy. A 3-patterned spirit armor was a treasure whose preciousness had already surpassed that of an ordinary Supreme King weapon. Even Yang Liuqing, Fun Yi, Lei Ming and the other famous 6-star blacksmiths had never refined a 3-patterned spirit armor. From this, one could see the difficulty of refining a 3-patterned spirit armor. In today's world, there were only 3 6-star blacksmiths who could refine a 3-patterned spirit armor. One was the number 1 6-star blacksmith in the Han Dynasty, Niefan. The other was the previous head of the Lian family of the Great Qin Empire, Lian Yunfei. The last was the current head of the weapon refining sect, Mu Wushuang. The ability of these 3 blacksmiths was publicly acknowledged to be the best in the world. Among all the 6-star blacksmiths, the 3 of them occupied the top 3 positions, and no one could surpass them. Among them, Niefan was a 9th-level earth sorcerer, and Yun Yunfei and Mu Wushuang were both supreme martial artists. Moreover, even if the 3 of them personally made a move, there was still a certain chance of failure. A 3-patterned spirit armor was a treasure that even a supreme martial artist would be moved by. How could such a treasure be refined so easily? If Lin Feng was really able to refine a 3-patterned spirit armor, then one could imagine that Lin Feng's status would instantly rise to the level of a supreme martial artist. Even those supreme martial artists would probably be thick-skinned and not hesitate to owe a favor to ask Lin Feng to refine a 3-patterned spirit armor. However, was this possible? Lin Feng did not know if this was possible. He only knew that, if he tried, there might still be a small chance. If he did not even dare to try, then there would definitely be no chance. Now that he had refined enough 2-patterned spirit armor, the remaining materials were just enough to refine a 3-patterned spirit armor. Everything seemed to be the will of heaven. Such a good opportunity, why not give it a try? Even if he failed in the end, it was not important. But what if he succeeded? A trace of ripple arose in Feng's emotions, but he urgently suppressed this trace of ripple. He took a deep breath and told himself in his heart, "Give it a try, just give it a try. No need to be nervous, it doesn't matter if it fails." P.S. The 5th update is presented. Glancing at the time, it was 5:17 in the morning. Chapter 194. In this small, inconspicuous refining room, a 5-star refiner was doing something crazy. Zhong Wei, Ling Zhongqing, the provincial governor of Shiqing, Qin Ku, Tang Miao, and Xiao Ran, a total of 6 people, were all immersed in Lin Feng's refining. The thoughts in their minds slowly disappeared and were replaced by a clearer world. There were mountains, rivers, seas, trees, sounds, colors, and life. It was a world that was similar to the Greenwood continent, but also different. In their eyes, there was only a young man waving a giant hammer, but what they saw was a different and complicated scene. Every strike of the young man's hammer seemed to be the birth, growth, and even destruction of a world. From birth to growth and finally to death. The prosperous system of earth pulse technique evolved from the birth, growth, and death of this world. Earth was the foundation of everything. Only when there was earth could there be wind, fire, thunder, and lightning, light and darkness, and all kinds of things in the world. Only when there was earth could there be miracles of life. Without earth, everything was nothingness. 308. Lin Feng waved the giant hammer, and a number immediately appeared in his mind. The seemingly simple strike of the hammer contained 308 kinds of forging techniques that were integrated with the law of earth. He tried his best to integrate more forging techniques that were integrated with the law of earth into every strike of the hammer, so that the effect of every strike could be improved as much as possible. No matter how much the effect was improved, even if it was only a little bit, it was worth it. At this moment, he seemed to be at ease, but in fact, his physical strength and mental power were being consumed quickly. 1 stripe spiritual armor, 2 stripe spiritual armor, 3 stripe spiritual armor. There seemed to be only 1 stripe of difference between the 3, but there was a huge difference in both the defensive effect of the spiritual armor and the difficulty of refining the spiritual armor. A single inscribed spirit armor could easily be forged by a 6-star blacksmith, and the success rate of the forging was relatively high. 5-star blacksmiths were also capable of forging a single inscribed spirit armor, but the success rate was relatively low. On the other hand, unless one was incredibly lucky, it would be difficult for an ordinary 5-star blacksmith to forge a single inscribed spirit armor. A 6-star refiner could refine a 2-stripe spiritual armor, but the failure rate was extremely high. A 5-star refiner, no matter how good his refining ability was, could hardly refine a 2-stripe spiritual armor unless he was extremely lucky. A 3-stripe spiritual armor, most 6-star refiners in the world couldn't refine a 3-stripe spiritual armor, even if they were extremely lucky. In the world, there were only 3 6-star refiners who could refine a 3-stripe spiritual armor, and these 3 were recognized as the 3 strongest 6-star refiners in the world. It was because of this that Zhong Wei, Ling Zhongqing, and the others felt that Lin Feng was crazy. A 5-star refiner trying to refine a 3-stripe spiritual armor was like a 9th-rank Earth warrior trying to challenge a Supreme Master-level expert. In fact, the most powerful 9th-rank Earth warrior couldn't defeat the weakest Supreme Master-level expert. A Supreme Master was a Supreme Master after all. If he was defeated by a 9th-rank Earth warrior, was he qualified to be called a Supreme Master? Lin Feng didn't know as much as they did, so Lin Feng was fearless, dared to try, and dared to charge at the impossible. If he knew these things, then he probably wouldn't be so crazy. The ignorant were fearless. This was the truth. Although Zhong Wei and the others didn't agree with Lin Feng's move and didn't think highly of it, Lin Feng had already put the materials into the furnace and started refining. Everything was irreversible, so they could only shut their mouths and quietly wait for Lin Feng to refine. If Lin Feng stopped now, then these materials would all be wasted. And if they waited silently on the side, maybe there would be a tiny bit of hope. At this time, a large amount of earth elements around the governor's mansion were sucked in by an invisible force and gathered towards this small refining room. The solid earth elements woke Zhong Wei, Ling Zhongqing, and the others. When they woke up from the deduction of the world and felt the dense earth elements around them, they couldn't help but be shocked. If there was a mage here, then cultivating in such an environment would be terrifyingly fast. Similarly, if there was a mage here casting a spell, then the power of the spell would be terrifying. In such an environment, a 5th-rank Earth mage could even defeat a 7th-rank Earth warrior. They looked at each other in shock and speechlessness. The shock in their hearts was greater than before. Did Lin Feng really succeed? They took a deep breath and recalled the strange phenomenon recorded in the book during the refining process of the 3-striped spiritual armor. There was no doubt that the scene in front of them was exactly the same as recorded in the book, but there was still something missing. Thinking of this, they walked out of the door and looked up at the sky. There seems to be no change. Zhong Wei breathed a sigh of relief. There was no change, which proved that the 3-striped spiritual armor that Lin Feng tried to refine did not reach the standard. At least, it hadn't reached the standard yet. This was because the real three-striped spiritual armor was not only accompanied by a large amount of earth elements during the refining process, but lightning would also gather in the sky. When the three-striped spiritual armor was successfully refined, it would be struck by lightning. This was the test of the law of earth for the three-striped spiritual armor, and also a kind of tempering. If the three-striped spiritual armor's quality was not enough, it would be shattered by the lightning. If the three-striped spiritual armor's quality reached the standard and could withstand the lightning, then its quality would be raised to another level. This was why the three-striped spiritual armor was much more precious than the two-striped spiritual armor. This was also why the three-striped spiritual armor was worth the attention of even a supreme being. 3:12. Lin Feng didn't notice the situation around him, nor did he notice that Zhong Wei and the others had already walked out of the room. He also didn't notice the solid earth elements around him. Large amounts of sweat had already appeared on his forehead, and his face was as pale as snow without the slightest trace of blood. Every strike seemed to have used up all his strength and overdrawn his potential. He didn't know how many times he had swung the hammer. Slowly, his body swayed. Whether it was his physical strength or mental strength, they had reached a critical point or a limit. "Boss, stop, quickly stop." Nono was extremely anxious, jumping up and down on Lin Feng's shoulder, anxiously calling out. But Lin Feng didn't pay attention to it at this moment, or he didn't have the time to pay attention to it at all, because every trace of his mental strength was used on refining the weapon, and he couldn't spare any time to care about anything else. His mind was filled with the chaotic and suffocating roar. Buzz, buzz, buzz. This sound was all he could feel. His vision was blurred. Every strike was directly hammered down. His mind was already in a mess. Every strike came from the memory that was deeply engraved in his bones, and integrated into the instinct of every cell. "Boss, I'm begging you, please stop." Nono's eyes were red. It could clearly sense that Lin Feng was in a terrible state at this moment. If it went on, only God knew if Lin Feng would eventually suffer irreparable damage, or even his life. Nono would never allow anything to happen to Lin Feng. For the first time. This was the first time that Lin Feng had been pushed to such an extent since he started learning refining. Even though he had to exhaust his physical strength to pass the Samsung's refiner's test, it was still far less painful than the pain he was going through right now, and it couldn't compare to the potential he was using right now. Because what he was using right now was not only his physical strength, but also his mental strength. "Master, please stop. Master, please stop. Master, please stop." Vague calls came out of Lin Feng's abdomen from space number 1. It was also the first time that number 1 had stopped Lin Feng from doing anything through the game card. It must be noted that Lin Feng was the master of the game card, as well as its master. Its duty was to obey. But this time, it had violated its duty. That was because, in the settings of its core program, the safety of its master was higher than its master's authority. At this moment, Lin Feng was soaked in sweat, as if he had just been fished out of the water. Although his body was shaking, and he could fall at any moment, he was still standing stubbornly. He was like the weeds in the wind, which were swaying but not blown away in the end. The earth elements in the surroundings became denser and denser. Even Qin Ku, Tang Miao, and the warriors and soldiers in the governor's mansion, who did not have any talent in earth cultivation and had low earth affinity, could sense the small light spots around them as long as they sensed it with their hearts. "It should be over soon," Zhong Wei said softly. "It seems that the three-striped spiritual armor has failed." Everyone nodded when they heard that. Then, they turned around and prepared to walk into the refining room. However, the moment they took a step forward, the wind and clouds in the sky suddenly changed color. In the time it took to breathe, dark clouds gathered, layer upon layer, blocking the light of the sun, causing the ground to instantly darken. Almost in an instant, streaks of blazing white lightning rapidly formed, rolling and surging within the dark clouds as if they had a life of their own. Looking at their movements, the lightning seemed to be swimming happily, like a child who had been locked up in a small dark room for many years finally having a chance to come out and take a breather. Rumble! Thunder rumbled, deafening, soul-stirring, and extremely terrifying. The pedestrians outside the governor's residence, the civilians who were fleeing in a hurry, the soldiers, servants, and guards in the residence, Zhong Wei, Ling Chongqing, the governor of Shicheng, Qin Ku, Tang Miao, and Xiao Ran at the entrance of the refining room. Everyone stopped in their tracks and raised their heads in unison. P.S. The first update is here. I've rushed to the top and will continue to update crazily today. Chapter 195. In an instant, dark clouds rolled in the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The sky changed color. Streaks of white lightning flashed through the dark clouds. Occasionally, they would reveal a corner and light up the ground. Weapon tribulation! Zhong Wei exclaimed in a low voice. Ling Chongqing, Governor Shicheng, and Qin Ku also looked at the sky in shock. Although the flashes of lightning were dazzling, they still didn't blink. It was as if they had been cursed. He did it. Lin Feng did it. They couldn't help but murmur in a daze. They never thought that Lin Feng, a 5-star blacksmith, could really forge a 3-stripe spiritual armor. Whether or not this 3-stripe spiritual armor could survive the weapon tribulation, Lin Feng had the right to be proud. Just as they were murmuring, the thunder rumbled again. This time, it was even more deafening. The ground trembled slightly. It's done. Lin Feng swung the hammer for the last time. The rest of the fusion technique of the Law of Earth was integrated into the hammer. After swinging the hammer, Lin Feng's face was no longer as pale as snow. On the contrary, his face was red. Blood flowed in reverse, as if his head was about to explode. He sat directly on the ground, his ears filled with rumbling sounds. His vision was blurry, and he could only roughly see the outline of things in the outside world. He breathed heavily, and his head felt like it was going to split open. It was more painful than ever. The furnace shook left and right. The flames flickered. Finally, they were extinguished. The moment the flame was extinguished, the swaying furnace began to vibrate even more intensely. It was as though something was about to break out of the furnace. The surrounding dense earth elements were all sucked into the furnace in one breath. Immediately, a ray of light that was filled with penetrating power erupted from the furnace. It penetrated the furnace, the refining room, and shot towards the sky. Boom! Crack! In an instant, the furnace broke into pieces and exploded. Countless pieces exploded in all directions. Boss, watch out! Nono cried out in alarm, her body rapidly growing in size as she stood in front of Lin Feng. The broken pieces of the furnace hit the Nono's feathers, which were as hard as a 2-striped or even 3-striped ordinary weapon. Clang! 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 Sparks flashed as the fragments of the furnace hit Nono's feathers. And in the center of the furnace, a strange light formed by the fusion of 3 colors instantly pierced through the roof of the refining room and flew into the sky. Vaguely, everyone seemed to hear an excited voice coming from the strange light. Just as the strange light broke through the roof and flew into the sky, the dark clouds suddenly split apart and formed a hole. It was as though it had been waiting for this strange light for a long time. Just as it flew up, a glaring lightning bolt suddenly struck down from the hole that was formed in the dark clouds with a loud bang. Rumble! The lightning was unbelievably fast. In the blink of an eye, it struck the strange light. Clang! A crisp sound spread in all directions from the point where the lightning and the strange light collided. The energy of the lightning bolt was exhausted instantly and disappeared without a trace. As for the strange light, it seemed to have suffered a huge blow. Its luster dimmed a lot, and one could vaguely see that there seemed to be something inside the light. Such a strange phenomenon frightened the people, and made the soldiers and guards near the governor's mansion nervous, as if they were facing a great enemy. Even if they were several kilometers away from the dark clouds, as long as they could see the dark clouds and hear the thunder, everyone's expression changed drastically, and their hearts were filled with fear. At the same time, Zhong Wei, Ling Chongqing, and the others were also looking at the strange light in the sky and the mysterious thing inside the strange light in shock and bewilderment. "This is the legendary weapon Tribulation," Ling Chongqing gasped. "Hiss!" Although everyone present had heard of the weapon Tribulation and had even read about it in books, there was no actual scene in their mind. They could only imagine what the weapon Tribulation was like. Now, they finally saw it with their own eyes and knew what the weapon Tribulation was all about. Qin Ku said in a low voice, "It's our fortune to be able to see the legendary weapon Tribulation in this life." Only Zhong Wei was worried. There are 3 levels of weapon Tribulation. Now, this 3-striped spiritual armor has only survived the first level. There are still 2 levels left. I don't know if it can withstand the next 2 levels of lightning. He had once been fortunate enough to see Nie Fan of the Han Dynasty refine a 3-rune spirit armor. Hence, he appeared slightly calmer. However, his heart was filled with worry because the 3-rune spirit armor he had seen Nie Fan refine was unable to withstand the 3 bolts of lightning and was destroyed in the end. Even Nie Fan had a high chance of failure when refining the 3-striped spiritual armor, let alone Lin Feng. In theory, the higher the quality of the 3-striped spiritual armor, the more it could withstand the lightning. Although Lin Feng had refined the 3-striped spiritual armor, could its quality be compared to Nie Fan, the 6-star refiner who was a level 9 earth sorcerer? Feeling Zhong Wei's worry, everyone's mood sank. They prayed in their hearts, "You must withstand it. Boss, are you okay?" Nono's anxious voice sounded in Lin Feng's mind. At this time, Lin Feng felt a little better, and his complexion gradually recovered. He forced himself to stand up with difficulty, and while staggering outside he said, "I'm fine, I just need to rest for a while." However, his spirit was very tired, and his body was weak and powerless, like a person who had just recovered from a serious illness. Nono returned to her original size and flew in the air, following behind Lin Feng. At this time, the second bolt of lightning in the sky had accumulated enough energy. As soon as Lin Feng walked out, it struck down at the strange light. Boom! The deafening sound of thunder caused the ground to tremble slightly. It ignored the distance between them, and as soon as it came down from the crack in the dark clouds, it had already arrived in front of the strange light and mercilessly struck the strange light. Clang! In an instant, sparks flew everywhere and light overflowed. The strange light dimmed a lot, and the object inside suddenly sank down, finally coming into everyone's sight. It was a suit of armor that was shining with a strange light. At this moment, when everyone saw clearly what was inside the strange light, they were all shocked. "It's armor, it's armor!" Never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that the thing that could resist the lightning that possessed unparalleled might and terrifying destructive power was actually a piece of armor. In an instant, their eyes shone with greed. Even if they didn't know how powerful this armor was, nor did they know who it belonged to or where it came from, they knew that it must be a shocking treasure. An armor that could withstand the bombardment of 2 heavenly thunders without any damage. Could it not be called a shocking treasure? They were sure that the value of this treasure was immeasurable. Even with all the wealth of a rank 9 Earth warrior, it would be difficult to buy such a treasure. Knowing this was enough for him. But when they looked at the location of the armor, the greed in their eyes was extinguished. That was the provincial governor's residence. Not to mention them, even a rank 9 powerhouse wouldn't have the guts to rob the provincial governor's residence. No matter which city or province, The provincial governor's residence was sacred and inviolable. It represented the absolute authority of the imperial family. Whoever dared to violate it was tantamount to provoking the imperial family. No one doubted the imperial family's power. Not to mention the three supreme guardians behind the imperial family had no less than 10 rank 9 powerhouses. They looked regretfully at the treasure in the sky and sighed in their hearts. Seeing the treasure in front of them, but unable to obtain it, they felt very regretful. Fortunately, this treasure didn't belong to them. Although they felt regretful, they didn't want to die for it. High up in the sky, the bizarre radiance emitted by the 3 runes' spiritual armor became increasingly dim, and only a faint trace of it could be seen. Even higher up in the sky, the lightning within the dark clouds was still surging violently, as if it was absorbing the energy within the dark clouds. Muffled sounds of thunder rang out from the dark clouds, causing one's scalp to go numb. Whether it succeeds or not, it all depends on the last lightning. Lin Feng clenched his fists and took a deep breath. Spiritual armor, oh spiritual armor, you must hold on. The first 2 lightning bolts had held on. If it was destroyed by the last lightning bolt, it would be too regretful. Zhong Wei, Ling Chongqing, the provincial governor of Shicheng, and the others also locked their eyes on the armor. Finally, after 10 breaths of time, the last bolt of lightning had accumulated enough energy, and another crack appeared in the dark clouds. Moreover, this crack was much larger than before. At this moment, the entire provincial capital of Shicheng seemed to have quieted down. One could hear a pin drop. In this moment of silence, an incomparably dazzling light suddenly flashed, as if it had illuminated the entire world. Everyone instinctively closed their eyes to avoid being hurt by the blinding light. Even Zhong Wei, Ling Chongqing, Lin Feng, and the others closed their eyes. After that flash of light, a sound that sounded like a furious dragon's roar entered everyone's ears. Rumble! The ground shook violently. Then, the sound spread further and further. It became smaller and smaller, fainter and fainter. However, it could be foreseen that even tens of kilometers or even hundreds of kilometers away, this deafening sound could still be heard. Ca. A heavy, soul-shaking sound rang out immediately after the deafening thunder. The two were almost at the same time. Is it over? Lin Feng opened his eyes and raised his head with difficulty. He looked at the sky where the 3-patterned armor was originally. Not only Lin Feng, Zhong Wei, and the others, but also the people near the provincial governor's residence all focused their gazes there. P.S. The second update is here. There are still 3 updates. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 196. In an instant, everyone who had just raised their heads and opened their eyes, closed their eyes again the moment their gazes came into contact with the armor. Their eyes were stimulated by a strange, dazzling light. Their pupils abruptly shrank, and tears involuntarily drilled out from the corners of their eyes, dripping to the ground. In a trance, they seemed to hear a cheerful sound. The sound was very far away from them, but it seemed to be very close, penetrating their hearts. In the next moment, the dazzling light gradually shrank and was finally absorbed. In the sky, the armor that emitted a faint, soft, and strange light slowly floated down. The armor was as light as a feather, soft and thin, as if it had no weight at all. After a while, the armor finally floated down and landed not far from Lin Feng. At this time, everyone's eyes slowly recovered. Although they were still sore and itchy, they could bear it. When they opened their eyes again, there was nothing in the sky. The dark clouds had dispersed, and the lightning seemed to have never appeared. The sky was clean and clear as if it had been washed. Blue clouds floated in the distance, showing some freshness. Failed. Looking at the empty sky, Zhong Wei, Ling Chongqing, and the others' hearts sank. Did he fail in the end? They sighed in their hearts, thinking about how to comfort Lin Feng later. However, when they looked at the crafting room, they saw Lin Feng standing at the door with an armor in his hand. For a moment, the words of comfort they had prepared in their hearts were swallowed back. Did he succeed? Their eyes shone with surprise. Although Lin Feng was not feeling well at the moment, he smiled at Zhong Wei and the others and nodded. Did he succeed? Did he succeed? Lin Feng really made the three-striped armor. Moreover, this three-striped armor successfully withstood the 3 thunderbolts, withstood the weapon tribulation, and survived tenaciously. Zhong Wei and the others hurried over. They wanted to see the legendary three-striped armor up close. Even for Zhong Wei, the #1 person in the kingdom of Zhao, the three-striped armor was still a legendary treasure that could only be found by chance. No, it should be something that could not be encountered or sought after. Even Zhong Wei had never seen it before, let alone the others. Everyone was extremely curious. What exactly was the 3-rune spirit armor like, and what kind of power did it have? As they approached, they carefully examined the armor in Lin Feng's hands. Perhaps it was because it had undergone the baptism of the artifact tribulation, but the entire armor looked like a single piece. It was soft and light, as if it was a masterpiece of the heavens. Its surface constantly flickered with a faint glow, and in the center of its front, 3 veined patterns were faintly discernible. No, it wasn't that the veined patterns were too light, but that the color of the armor was too dark, and it covered the color of the veined patterns. As expected, there are 3 veined patterns, Zhong Wei said in surprise. It's a 3-veined spirit armor. Governor Shurcheng was just about to speak when footsteps came from the side. A group of soldiers and guards hurried over. One of them said, "Sir, there seems to be a treasure in the sky just now. I know about this. You may leave." The provincial governor waved his hand. The group of soldiers and guards looked at each other. Seeing that the provincial governor did not seem surprised, a trace of doubt arose in their hearts. However, since the provincial governor had given the order, they had to obey. Yes. The group of people immediately left. At this time, the provincial governor said apologetically, "I'm sorry. I didn't discipline my subordinates well, so they disturbed you." Zhong Wei waved his hand. "It's okay. They were just doing their duty. They didn't do anything wrong." "Thank you for your understanding, Sir Zhong," the provincial governor said. After that, Zhong Wei looked at Lin Feng again with a trace of respect in his eyes. After being interrupted by these soldiers and guards, they then realized the crux of the problem. The crux of the matter was not this 3-patterned spirit armor, but the weapon refiner who had refined this 3-patterned spirit armor. Lin Feng, he, the refiner who made a 3-veined spirit armor. No matter how good Lin Feng's refining ability was, as long as the news spread, there would be a large number of masters who would immediately come and be willing to serve Lin Feng. A refiner who could make a 3-veined spirit armor was even more respected than the average 6-star refiner. Even though Lin Feng was only a 5-star craftsman, the fact that he was able to craft a 3-rune spiritual armor meant that his status had already surpassed that of a normal 6-star craftsman. Even though he still couldn't reach the level of the crafting school's headmaster, no matter where he went, there were bound to be many masters willing to follow him around. "Congratulations, Lin." Zhong Wei paused for a moment, then respectfully said, "Mr. Lin." At this time, Lin Feng's position in his heart had undergone a tremendous change. Lin Feng was shocked and hurriedly waved his hand. "No, no, no, Sir Zhong, please don't make me feel inferior." Zhong Wei solemnly said, "Mr. Lin, now that you can make a 3-veined spirit armor, your status has surpassed Fen Yi, Yang Luqing, and me. You are worthy of being called Mr. Lin." Sir Zhong's words are reasonable. "Mr. Lin, please don't refuse." The provincial governor agreed. "That's right, Mr. Lin. From now on, your status will surpass the majority of 6-star refiners. You'd better adjust your mentality." Otherwise, even if we still call you Lin Feng, in our hearts, you will still be the Mr. Lin who made the three-veined spirit armor," Ling Zhongqing said. Fortunately, Zhong Wei and the others were all honorable people. They would never kill someone for their treasures or destroy a genius. Moreover, Lin Feng was extremely important to Zhao. One of them was the imperial tutor, the other was the provincial governor of Jingmen City. Naturally, they would not do anything that would destroy the future of the empire. Otherwise, Lin Feng's situation would be dangerous. In front of Zhong Wei, a ninth-order Earth warrior, who was known as the #1 expert in Zhao, Lin Feng didn't have the slightest power to resist. Lin Feng had only thought of it on the spur of the moment. Time was short, so he didn't think too much. If he had time to think about it, he probably wouldn't have been so reckless to try to make the three-veined spirit armor in front of everyone and almost lose his life. Now that he thought about it, he was still a little scared. "Mr. Lin! Mr. Lin!" Qin Ku and Tang Miao also shouted. Only Xiao Ran was a little embarrassed. He didn't know whether to shout or not. Seeing everyone's determined attitude, Lin Feng could only smile bitterly and say, "Well, you can call me whatever you like. However, I hope that everyone here will try not to spread this matter. I still want to live a peaceful life for a while." Of course. Zhong Wei and the others nodded in unison. Then, Zhong Wei suggested, "Now that the three-veined spirit armor has been made, Mr. Lin might as well put it on and test its defense." Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up, and their faces were full of anticipation. They also wanted to know how strong the defense of the legendary three-veined spirit armor was. Even a prime was moved by it. After thinking about it, Lin Feng didn't reject Zhong Wei's suggestion. He also wanted to take the opportunity to understand his current overall strength. In front of everyone, he took off his outerwear and put on the three-veined spirit armor. In this cold weather, he didn't feel the slightest bit of discomfort wearing the three-veined spirit armor. On the contrary, he felt warm all over. He didn't need to put on his outerwear and could walk in the world of ice and snow without the slightest effect. Rumor has it that the three-veined spirit armor has the miraculous effect of being impervious to cold and heat. "It seems that this is true," Zhong Wei said. Lin Feng asked, "How do you test it?" Zhong Wei said, "Since you are a martial warrior, you only need to circulate the origin energy in your body and cover the surface of the three-veined spirit armor." Qin Ku, Tang Miao, and Ling Chongqing couldn't help but take a deep look at Lin Feng. They knew that Lin Feng had another identity. He was a rank 7 Earth magician. However, they didn't expose him. Since Lin Feng didn't want to reveal his identity as a rank 7 Earth magician, they naturally had to keep this secret for Lin Feng. Origin energy? Lin Feng pondered for a moment, then nodded. Okay. He didn't have much origin energy in his body. Although it was used up when he was refining, it recovered in a short while. The next moment, he circulated the thin origin energy in his body and covered the three-veined spirit armor through the surface of his body. Just as the origin energy touched the three-veined spirit armor, the three-veined spirit armor suddenly burst out with a strange light. It was just like the strange light when the three-veined spirit armor resisted the heavenly thunder. However, this strange light was much dimmer than before. It was also quite gentle and didn't cause discomfort. Rank 3 Earth Warrior. Zhong Wei looked at Lin Feng in surprise. According to the concentration of this origin energy, you haven't advanced to rank 4 yet? Lin Feng said awkwardly, "It should be soon." Yes, he didn't lie. After such a long time of cultivation, he was not far from the rank 4 Earth Warrior, but as long as he didn't advance to rank 4, he would always be a rank 3 Earth Warrior. Rank 3 Earth Warrior, 5-star weapon refiner, three-veined spirit armor. Zhong Wei's expression suddenly became strange. In the world, there is such a special weapon refiner? A third-rank Earth Warrior had actually been promoted to a 5-star weapon refiner, and this 5-star weapon refiner was even able to refine a 3-patterned spirit armor that could withstand the weapon tribulation. If this news were to spread out, it was likely that no one in the entire world would believe it, right? However, this was the truth. In the end, Zhong Wei could only smile bitterly and attribute all this to the word genius. Perhaps, a peerless genius like Lin Feng should be different from ordinary people. He shook his head and threw away the distracting thoughts in his mind. He looked at Lin Feng seriously and said, "Next, I will adjust my strength to rank 5 and attack you with rank 5 strength. After that, starting from rank 5, I will slowly increase my strength and gradually increase my attack power. If you feel uncomfortable, remind me." Lin Feng also looked serious and nodded seriously. "I understand. Well, let's start now." Zhong Wei stood firmly on the ground. He waved one hand and the corner of his green robe swayed gently. P.S. The third update is available. Where are the monthly votes? Chapter 197. Phew! Exhaling softly, Lin Feng nodded to Zhong Wei, indicating that he was ready. The next moment, Zhong Wei shouted softly, "Ha!" He turned his palm into a fist, bent his knees, and fused all his strength into this punch. Rank 5 strength, a full blow. Smack! A crisp sound came from between his fist and the 3-striped spirit armor. Lin Feng did not move at all. The force was actually neutralized by the 3-striped spirit armor, and he was not affected at all. Such an outcome caused him to be unable to help but feel doubtful. Although the defense of the 3 runes spiritual armor was extremely frightening, from his point of view, it should only be able to defend against the power of the opponent's fist. However, the impact generated by the fist should not be affected. In other words, the person within the armor should also be sent flying by the impact. But the result was that this impact was actually neutralized on the surface of the 3-striped spirit armor. Looking at Lin Feng's expression, Zhong Wei took the initiative to explain, "Spirit armor is refined by a refiner through the profound meaning of the earth. It naturally contains profound meaning fluctuations and even the power of profound meaning. As long as this impact is within the range of the 3-striped spirit armor, it can completely neutralize the impact, so the owner of the 3-striped spirit armor will not be hurt at all. But if this force exceeds the resistance limit of the 3-striped spirit armor, then the owner of the 3-striped spirit armor will also be hurt." "I understand." Lin Feng himself was a 5-star refiner. After Zhong Wei's explanation, he understood this principle. This was a magical world. The laws and profound meanings were incomparably mysterious, and could not be explained by the ordinary laws of physics at all. Zhong Wei said, "It seems that the defense of your 3-striped spirit armor should be very good." He once again assumed an attacking posture. "Let's try again. Come on." Lin Feng once again used his origin power to cover the surface of the 3-striped spirit armor. Zhong Wei accumulated his strength and said, "This time, it's the power of a rank 6 Earth warrior." After he finished speaking, he threw a punch at him. Whoosh! His speed was also adjusted to the limit of a rank 6 Earth warrior. Although it was far from his own speed, it was quite fast for an ordinary rank 6 Earth warrior. In the next moment, his fist smashed into the 3-patterned spirit armor. Smack! Another crisp sound came from the surface of the 3-striped spirit armor. This time, everyone's expressions finally changed. The full-force attack of a rank 6 Earth warrior was unable to cause the slightest harm to Lin Feng, a rank 3 Earth warrior. One must know that even a rank 7 Earth warrior would not dare to allow a rank 6 Earth warrior to attack him with all his strength. Otherwise, he would also be injured. What a terrifying 3-patterned spirit armor! What a terrifying defense! Zhong Wei's interest was piqued. He looked at Lin Feng and asked, "What do you think?" Lin Feng smiled slightly. Perhaps I can try the attack of a rank 7 Earth Warrior again. Alright. Zhong Wei couldn't ask for more. He also wanted to test the defensive limits of the 3-patterned spiritual armor. This time, I will use the attack of a 7th Order Earth Warrior. You'd better be careful. If you feel uncomfortable, immediately remind me. I understand. Lin Feng's expression turned serious. He didn't want to risk his life. Zhong Wei's expression turned serious. The more powerful the power, the more difficult it was to control it. At the level of rank 7, he had to be a little more serious. As for rank 8, he had to be completely focused. Phew. He exhaled lightly, adjusted his strength to rank 7, and then smashed a fist over. Smack. A faint mark appeared on the 3-patterned spirit armor. It was slightly different from the previous few times, but this sound was still so crisp, without the slightest hint of a punch to the flesh. Lin Feng stood in place and did not move at all. Ling Chongqing and the others, who were watching from the side, were shocked. Even the power of a rank 7 Earth Warrior can't affect him. This time, even Zhong Wei was startled. As expected of the 3-patterned spirit armor. Its defensive power is indeed terrifying. Zhong Wei sighed deeply. The Yuan energy of a mere rank 3 Earth Warrior can withstand the attack of a rank 7 Earth Warrior through the 3-patterned spirit armor. It's no wonder that even the Supremes are scrambling for such a boost. Lin Feng asked, Lord Zhong, what level of rank 7 Earth Warrior was the power you used just now? The limit of a rank 7 Earth Warrior. Zhong Wei said frankly, generally speaking, the power of any rank 7 Earth Warrior will not exceed the power I used just now. Hearing this, Lin Feng lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then he raised his head and looked at Zhong Wei. Lord Zhong, I would like to ask you to try the power of a rank 8 Earth Warrior again. As soon as he said that, Ling Chongqing and the others were shocked. Absolutely not. Ling Chongqing said, Mr. Lin, although the defensive enhancement of the 3-patterned spirit armor is terrifying, it is only an armor after all. There is a limit to its defensive enhancement. The gap between rank 7 and 8 is huge. I suggest that you don't try to avoid any accident. But Lin Feng shook his head and said, I understand what you said, but I can feel that rank 7 is not the limit of this 3-patterned spirit armor. He looked at Zhong Wei again. Lord Zhong, if the power you used just now was really at the limit of rank 7, then I think this 3-patterned spirit armor should be able to withstand the power of a rank 8 Earth Warrior. Are you sure you want to try? Zhong Wei said in a low voice. Yes. Lin Feng was very determined. Okay, I promise you. Zhong Wei said, however, if you feel uncomfortable, you must immediately say it. Only in this way can you minimize the accidental damage to the maximum. Okay. Lin Feng nodded. The next moment, the two stood opposite each other again in a testing posture. The group prayed secretly at the side, please don't let anything happen. Ling Chongqing murmured to comfort himself. Lord Zhong's cultivation is high, and he is experienced. He can control his power freely. He will definitely not hurt Mr. Lin. Ha! Zhong Wei's soft shout attracted the group's attention. That punch seemed to carry the will of heaven and earth. The air in front of it was blown away, and the high-speed airflow produced a strong wind. That strong wind happened to be right at the fist. Bang! The fist hit the 3-patterned spirit armor, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of Lin Feng's mouth. Then, he took a few steps back. Mr. Lin. Ling Chongqing and the others rushed over. Zhong Wei withdrew his fist and walked over quickly. Are you okay? Lin Feng stood firm, shook his head, and waved his hand. Don't worry, I'm fine. He touched the 3-patterned spirit armor on his body, his eyes full of surprise. What a powerful defense enhancement! How is it? Zhong Wei asked with concern. Looking at everyone's worried eyes, Lin Feng said with a smile, It's a minor injury. It's not a problem. The defense of the three-patterned spirit armor is beyond all of our imagination. After he finished speaking, everyone looked at the three-patterned spirit armor. It withstood. This three-patterned spirit armor actually withstood the power of a rank 8 Earth warrior. Most importantly, Lin Feng was only a rank 3 Earth warrior. The origin power of a rank 3 Earth warrior could achieve such a terrifying defensive effect. If this three-patterned spirit armor was worn by a rank 9 Earth warrior, how terrifying would its defensive power be? Would it be able to withstand a full blow from a supreme master and not die? At the thought of this, everyone sucked in a deep breath of cold air. At this moment, they finally had a clear understanding of the defensive power of the three-patterned spirit armor. At the same time, they also understood the true value of the three-patterned spirit armor. This was definitely a treasure many times more precious than a three-patterned spirit weapon. Even when compared to those ordinary king artifacts, its value was far beyond that of any ordinary king artifact. The defense of your three-patterned spirit armor is also relatively high among all three-patterned spirit armors. Zhong Wei commented, although it's not ranked first, there are very few armors in the world that can surpass this three-patterned spirit armor. After a pause, he reminded, but there's one thing you have to remember. Although your three-patterned spirit armor can withstand the full blow of a rank 8 Earth warrior, it can't withstand the full blow of a rank 8 Earth warrior with a spirit weapon. The difference in attack power between a rank 8 Earth warrior with and without a weapon is too great. Even if it's just an ordinary one-patterned spirit weapon, it can increase the attack power of a rank 8 Earth warrior by several times, and a more powerful spirit weapon can even increase the attack power of a rank 8 Earth warrior by several times. After that, he said seriously, so, don't think that you can ignore the attack of a rank 8 Earth warrior. A rank 8 Earth warrior with a weapon was definitely much more powerful than a rank 8 Earth warrior with a bare hand. Lin Feng's heart trembled, and he nodded. I know. He almost took the weapon into account just now. Fortunately, he was a 5-star refiner. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something and asked, Lord Zhong, do you know how a mage uses the three-patterned spirit armor? This question stunned Zhong Wei. It wasn't that he didn't know the answer, but that he didn't expect Lin Feng to ask such a question. Could it be that Lin Feng intended to give this three-patterned spirit armor to a mage? Was this mage his relative or friend? Zhong Wei guessed in his heart. Actually, mages and warriors are the same. Zhong Wei quickly gave the answer. Warriors use elemental energy to activate the three-patterned spirit armor, while mages use mental energy to activate the three-patterned spirit armor. The elemental energy of a rank 3 Earth warrior and the mental energy of a rank 3 Earth mage are actually about the same effect. However, mages have a slight advantage, because mages use less mental energy than Earth warriors to activate the three-patterned spirit armor, so they can last longer. Hearing this, Lin Feng was overjoyed. The elemental energy of a rank 3 Earth warrior could block the full blow of a rank 8 Earth warrior with bare hands. Then, could the mental energy of a rank 7 Earth mage be able to block the full blow of a rank 9 expert? Almost instantly, this thought appeared in Lin Feng's mind. Ling Zhongqing, Qin Ku, and Tang Miao looked at each other, their mouths wide open, their eyes full of shock. P.S. The 4th update is available. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 198. What's wrong with you guys? Seeing Ling Chongqing, Qin Ku, and Tang Miao's strange expressions, Zhong Wei was confused. Ling Chongqing quickly shook his head. No, I just feel that this three-striped spirit armor is too powerful. Yes. Qin Ku and Tang Miao both agreed. Zhong Wei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Isn't your reaction a little too slow? Lin Feng put on his coat again and carried the lotus severing sword on his back. We've already stayed here for a long time. It's time to go. Qin Ku, Tang Miao, and the others immediately felt heavy. They nodded and prepared to leave without saying a word. Then, Lin Feng turned and walked toward the provincial chief. Thank you, sir, for providing the rare materials and this crafting room. As he spoke, he looked apologetic. When I was crafting the three-striped spirit armor, the furnace seemed to be unable to withstand it and exploded. Please forgive me, sir. The provincial chief quickly waved his hand. No, Mr. Lin, you don't have to apologize. It's my fortune to be able to receive Mr. Lin's gift today. That furnace can be considered to have completed its mission. I can't thank you enough. How can I blame you? In that case, thank you, sir, Lin Feng said. We don't have much time. We still have many important matters to attend to, so we won't stay any longer. Sir, we'll meet again if fate allows. Hearing this, the provincial chief opened his mouth. He wanted to keep Lin Feng and the others for a few days to build a relationship, but now that Lin Feng and the others had made up their minds, he could only swallow his words. Otherwise, it would be annoying. All right, I wish Mr. Lin a safe journey. The provincial chief cupped his hands. Goodbye. Lin Feng cupped his hands. After bidding farewell to the provincial chief, the group left the provincial chief's residence. They rode their horses and rushed toward Jingmen City. Time was of the essence. They had already been delayed here for a long time. They had to double their efforts to catch up. Hiya. The group of people quickly disappeared from the provincial governor's mansion. Before long, they had already rushed out of the provincial city. Governor Shicheng saw them off all the way to the governor's mansion. He stopped and watched Lin Feng and the others leave until they completely disappeared. Lin Feng. As he muttered the name, he suddenly smiled. Perhaps it won't be long before this name shakes the world. Such a young 5-star refiner, who could refine a 3-patterned armor at such a young age, and who was only a 3rd-rank Earth warrior. It was hard for such a person, such a special genius, not to be famous. The sun sank below the horizon, and darkness enveloped the land. However, on a wide road in Stone City, the sound of galloping horses could be heard. The galloping sounds were rapid and there was no interval between them. It meant that this group of wild horses was extremely fast. The night passed. Lin Feng and the others had already arrived at the border between Stone City and Jingmen City. In front of them was a wide river, which was the famous Stone Desert River. A wooden bridge was suspended over the river, connecting this side of the river to the other side. The wooden planks of the wooden bridge were as thick as a foot. They were all taken from ancient trees deep in the mountains and were extremely sturdy. After crossing this river, they would enter the territory of Jingmen City. Lin Feng, Qin Ku, and the others were quite excited. After rushing for so long through the night, they almost didn't rest along the way. Finally, they were almost back to Jingmen City. Hiya, with a loud shout, the group rode their horses and quickly rushed to the other side of the river. Their speed was extremely fast. In about 10 breaths, they had crossed the wooden bridge and reached the territory of Jingmen City. Let's go! Almost without the slightest pause, they quickly moved in the direction of Jingmen City. The trees here were lush and the vegetation was exuberant. It was a dense forest. The group rushed into the dense forest. About an hour later, they still hadn't passed through the dense forest and reached the other side of the forest. However, after entering the dense forest, their expressions became dignified. From time to time, a low roar could be heard in their ears. It wasn't the sound of animals, but monster beasts. I didn't expect there to be traces of monster beasts here. Zhong Wei said in a deep voice, "Be careful. Safety first." Understood. The others whispered. The group moved forward for a while and finally, they vaguely saw the edge of the dense forest. They were finally going to pass through the dense forest. In this dense forest, the trees were messy and luxuriant. It was easy to block their line of sight. Not only could they be attacked by monster beasts at any time, but the speed of the wild horses was also greatly affected. Fortunately, they were finally going to pass through the dense forest. As they got closer and closer to the exit, they slowly breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts. However, when they rushed out of the entrance of the dense forest, their expressions changed drastically. In front of them was an endless plain. The farmland was filled with huge claw marks, and scattered human corpses were strewn all over the farmland. Most of the corpses were incomplete, as if they had been gnawed on by something. The houses were full of holes, and some had already collapsed into ruins. Millions of corpses were lying on the ground, and wails were everywhere. This was hell on earth. In a faraway farmland there was also a wolf demon with its head lowered eating something. It didn't care about the arrival of Lin Feng's group at all. A strong smell of blood came from the cold wind, mixed with a trace of desolation. The earth was crying and the cold wind was wailing. All of this was crying to people. The scene in front of him was extremely tragic. Everyone clenched their fists tightly, and their expressions were extremely ugly. Traces of hatred and anger flowed in their eyes. Qin Ku and Tang Miao were almost blinded by anger. They roared and were about to rush over. Zhong Wei stopped them with one hand and said in a heavy voice, "You killed it, but there are still thousands of monsters. Can you kill them all?" The two of them clenched their fists, their eyes filled with indignation. "Let's go. Let's try to return to the provincial capital as soon as possible to fight against the monsters there and save as many people as possible. That's what we need to do now." Although Zhong Wei was also furious at this moment, he was able to suppress his anger and force himself to calm down. "Instead of wasting time here, why don't we go and rescue those who are still alive?" Lin Feng took a deep breath and turned his head in pain. "Let's go. Giddy up." Then, the group continued in the direction of Jingmen City Province. Their speed had actually increased by a few notches. However, they were unwilling to waste time here, but that wolf demon didn't seem to be willing to let them go. Howl! A high-pitched wolf howl came from the wolf demon's mouth. The next moment, the wolf demon chased over at top speed. At the same time, wolf howls that sounded like responses came from afar. Howl! 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 One by one, the wolf demons rushed over from different directions. Their speed was so fast that they far surpassed the savage horse. Zhong Wei frowned. "Looks like I have to deal with these beasts." With that, he controlled the wild horse to stop. The wild horse spun uneasily on the spot and let out a long cry of fear. Nay, ordinary wolf demons were only third-stage monsters. The wolf demon commander was a fourth-stage or fifth-stage monster, and the wolf king was a fifth-stage or sixth-stage monster. Although there were many wolf demons, there were at least 1,000 wolf demons gathering from all directions. But in front of Zhong Wei, the number one person below the supremacy level, a mere 1,000 wolf demons were not worth mentioning. Ha! Zhong Wei leaped and somersaulted in midair. With a deep shout, he threw a punch down. He didn't even need to use weapons to deal with these wolf demons. The difference in strength was too great. A terrifying wave of air burst out from Zhong Wei's fist. The full blow of a ninth-stage Earth warrior erupted in an instant. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, the earth shook, the earth cracked, and the ground caved in. Within a radius of 300 feet, the huge wolf demons were either blasted into pieces or smashed into the huge cracks in the ground amidst howls of agony. They ended up being smashed into smithereens. The power of one punch was like the explosion of a small missile. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly shrank. What terrifying strength! Zhong Wei's empty-handed punch was much more powerful than Zhang Kuang. The number one person below the supremacy level, and the number one person among the ninth-stage Earth warriors, was indeed worthy of his reputation. After easily dealing with a group of demon wolves, the few surviving demon wolves immediately turned around and fled in fear. Now we can continue on our way. Zhong Wei didn't chase after them. As if he hadn't done anything, he rode the wild horse again and said to Lin Feng and the others. Thus, the group once again marched towards Jingmen City Province. However, the closer they got to Jingmen City Province, the heavier, angrier, and more depressed the group's mood became along the way. The entire Jingmen City Province was plunged into despair, panic, and death. Every place they passed was like hell on earth. They had been moving forward for 4 hours, but they didn't see a single living person. In their line of sight, apart from corpses, there were only demon beasts. And all of this was done by the guy who claimed to be Purple Blood Demon Saint. Damn Purple Blood Demon Saint. It wasn't until they entered a county that they vaguely saw traces of living people. Finally, I see living people. Lin Feng and the others also got a chance to breathe after suppressing the suffocation in their hearts for a long time. On the street, they continued to move forward. Occasionally, they would encounter a few demonic beasts, but Zhong Wei would easily take care of them, which attracted a lot of attention. However, more people gathered together and hid in a relatively safe place. They were surrounded by a large number of soldiers from the county guard, a group of experts from the mercenary corps, and a mixed army formed by experts from various forces in the county. They set up layers of defense to keep the demonic beasts outside. They didn't stay in this county for long and continued on their way. In the early morning of the next day, the sky gradually brightened. Lin Feng and the others finally arrived at Jingmen City Province. In the distance, a group of wild horses galloped on the street. Looking at the once prosperous city, it had now become a pile of ruins. Specks of light lit up in the ruins. The closer they got, the more depressed they felt. Tears glistened in their eyes. "Father, teacher, I'm back. Teacher, your unfilial disciple is back. Wait for us, we're coming to save you. P.S. The 5th chapter is here." It was another very complicated chapter. They racked their brains to finish it. I have 1170 monthly vote. Can I increase it to 1200 before 12 noon? I beg for monthly votes. Chapter 199. Early in the morning, the sky was still dark, and the surrounding scenery was blurry. The lights were also hazy. Although there were still people alive in Jingmen City, no one dared to make a sound under the threat of countless demonic beasts. The whole city was like a dead city, filled with despair and fear. In the ruins, people were shivering. Even when they were sleeping, they couldn't feel at ease. They were constantly on guard against the attacks of the demonic beasts, and at the same time, they had to resist the invasion of the cold wind. Their faces were pale, and their minds were blurry. They were constantly on tenterhooks and lived in endless pain and torment. Someone's coming. Hearing the sound of horses neighing in the distance, people suddenly woke up and looked over with a glimmer of hope. However, in their line of sight, they could only see a few figures. The hope that had just been ignited was immediately extinguished. In the face of so many demonic beasts, how much could a few people do? Not to mention, there was an extremely terrifying super-demonic beast among them. They originally thought that these were soldiers or warriors sent by the Empire to rescue them. When they reached the city gate, Lin Feng and the rest jumped down from their horses. Now that the entire provincial city had been turned into ruins, there was no place for the horses to gallop. They could only rely on themselves to move forward. Half of the city gate had collapsed, and the other half was in ruins. The passage to the city gate was blocked by a pile of boulders, and there was no way to go. "Let's go." After they jumped down from their horses, they jumped and rushed into the city. After entering the city, they could occasionally see some survivors, but the number was extremely small. It was not as good as the county towns they had seen before. Fortunately, the situation they were most worried about did not happen. In the end, there were still survivors in this city, and it was much better than they had imagined. This could be considered a blessing in disguise. With a heavy heart, they searched for the original location of the large mansions according to their vague memories. Due to the destruction of the city, most of the buildings had been turned into ruins, and the streets were covered by stones and dust. Therefore, they could not tell the direction at all and could only roughly search based on their vague memories. In the former provincial governor's mansion, now, except for a few extremely sturdy and low-height houses, the rest of the buildings had been turned into ruins. However, there were a few wooden houses that had been temporarily set up amidst the ruins. There was a faint light in the houses. In the largest wooden house, a group of people sat on the ground casually with heavy expressions. In the corner of the wooden house, there was a middle-aged man covered in blood lying on top of a wooden bed. Beside the wooden bed was a young man. The young man's face was cold, and his eyes faintly revealed a trace of cold hatred. It wasn't just the young man. Everyone in the wooden hut was filled with endless hatred. It was like a raging inferno. It's been more than 10 days. That monster comes every day. Every time someone dies. What should we do? The one who spoke was a skinny old man. His face was extremely solemn, and there was even a trace of fear in his eyes. Even if we join forces, we are still no match for him. At most, we can only temporarily confront him. If this goes on, we can't. Once everyone else in the city is killed by that monster, it will be our turn sooner or later. That monster treated the humans in Jingmen City as food. Every other day, it would come to kill a group of humans. In the past 10 days, it was unknown how many people had been eaten as food. Moreover, as long as someone dared to rush out of the city, it would appear immediately and kill them. Therefore, the surviving people in Jingmen City were extremely tormented and in pain. They were almost going crazy. The feeling of being treated as food and waiting for death was constantly stimulating their nerve. The light flickered. If one looked carefully, they would find that most of the people in the wooden hut were acquaintances of Lin Feng. The one who spoke just now was the 5-star refiner Iron Like a Hook. Next to Iron Like a Hook was Han Lin. Opposite them were Luo Yong and the other 2 5-star refiners from the Craftsmen's Guild, Randy and Randy. In addition to the 5 of them, there were also 2 rank 8 Earth Warriors sitting at the door. The one lying on the wooden bed was the 5-star refiner, Fu Yuanshan. That young man was naturally Fu Yi. Han Lin nodded solemnly. This monster feeds on humans. It won't let us go so easily. In the battle 10 days ago, we joined forces to fight against that monster, but we still didn't gain any advantage. Everyone more or less suffered minor injuries. Brother Fu was seriously injured and hasn't even recovered half of his strength. I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to recover his combat strength in a short time. But that monster only suffered some scratches. It's not a big deal at all. As such, our situation will be even more dangerous. Fu Yuanshan, Han Lin, Iron Like a Hook, Luo Yong, Randy and Randy were 6 people. Among them, Han Lin and Luo Yong were rank 8 Earth Warriors, and the other 4 were rank 7 Earth Warriors. Including the 2 rank 8 Earth Warriors at the door, there were 4 rank 8 Earth Warriors and 4 rank 7 Earth Warriors. However, a total of 8 experts were still no match for that monster. For now, we can only join forces and try again. Luo Yong's face was also very ugly. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Although that monster is powerful, its real cultivation should only be at the peak of rank 8. Perhaps it's because it's a low-level divine beast that it has such terrifying combat strength. But no matter what, we will only die if we stay. It's better to take the chance now. Maybe there's a chance of survival. Moreover, even if we all die in battle, at least we can create a chance for our surviving juniors to escape." Although the chances of victory were too small, they still had to try. Even if 4 rank 7 Earth warriors and 4 rank 8 Earth warriors joined forces, the chances of victory would not be more than 10%. A 10% chance was enough to suffocate everyone present. A 10% chance was almost negligible. Their end was likely to be total annihilation. Of the 2 rank 8 Earth warriors, one was an expert invited by Fu Yuanshan, and the other was an expert from the provincial governor's mansion. At this time, their faces were extremely ugly. Hearing Luo Yong's words, they were silent and hesitant. It was difficult to make a choice. "Let's fight." Tai Rugu abruptly stood up with a distressed expression. "I have nothing left now. My family, my disciples, everything I have is gone. Haha, it's all gone." He held his head in pain. "Even so, I'm still struggling at death's door. I'm afraid that after I die, I won't have the face to face them." Yes, everything was gone. Everyone's eyes were filled with pain. Everything had been destroyed in this city. The disciples they had carefully nurtured, the geniuses in the young master's tournament, and their families were all dead. They were all dead. Except for a few lucky survivors, the rest were all dead. Their hearts were bleeding. Blood slowly dripped out from the cracks. In their blurred vision, they seemed to see the figures of their dead relatives and disciples. It was so miserable. Everyone's hearts were filled with hatred. Their hatred for Purple Blood Demon Sage was monstrous. The Purple Blood Demon Sage, an expert who had suddenly appeared, had made them lose everything with a light palm strike. "Then, let's fight." Han Lin's eyes were filled with coldness as he slowly stood up. The others were silent for a long time. Finally, they took a deep breath and nodded together. "That's the only way." At this point, they had no choice but to fight to the death. There was no way out. At this time, Fu Yuanshan coughed a few times, coughing up streams of blood that dyed his clothes red. "Father," Fu Yi suddenly said worriedly. "I'm fine." Fu Yuanshan waved his hand and looked at the group. "Everyone, count me in for this last battle." Han Lin said worriedly, "Brother Fu, now that you are seriously injured, I'm afraid." Fu Yuanshan sat up with difficulty and said, "I'm fine." He pleaded in a low voice, "I only hope that no matter the result of this battle, if you have a chance to escape." He looked at Fu Yi in front of him and said in a low voice, "Please help me and save my child as well." For the sake of our many years of friendship, I hope that you will agree to my request. Everyone was silent. Finally, Iron Like a Hook said, "Senior brother, I promise you that if there's a chance, I'll definitely save Fu Yi." Han Lin nodded slowly. "We'll do our best." After that, he said, "Before that, I want to say something. No one knows who will die in this battle, but no matter who escapes this time, I hope that you will remember the people here today, remember our enemies, and remember Purple Blood Demon Sage. At the same time, I hope that those who escape will try their best to save those who are still alive and take good care of them." Of course. Luo Yong nodded solemnly. Finally, the group decided that the time of the final battle was set at noon. There were still 4 hours before noon. These 4 hours were enough for them to make arrangements for their surviving relatives or disciples to increase their chances of escaping. After a while, there was no one else in the wooden house except for Fu Yuanshan and Fu Yi. Everyone was in a hurry to make arrangements. In the provincial governor's mansion, a sparse crowd gathered. When Han Lin informed the crowd of their decision, they immediately fell silent. Had they finally reached this step? They clenched their fists and trembled slightly. A sense of oppression and pain grew in their hearts. However, in the face of the current situation, they felt deeply helpless. Now, it seemed that there was no other way except for this method. There are still 4 hours. At that time, we will fight the three-eyed horned python and attract its attention. As for you," Han Lin looked at the people in front of him and said solemnly, "Escape towards the direction of the imperial capital. Escape as far as you can. If any of us are still alive, We will meet in the Imperial capital. P.S. The first update is here. Today. I will continue to update. Please vote. Chapter 200. The combat power of a low-level level 8 divine beast was frightening. Facing such a terrifying demon beast, it was difficult to find an expert in the entire Jingmen City province who could fight against it. Even if these level 8 and level 7 Earth warriors worked together, they would not be its match. Therefore, before the battle began, they had to prepare for the worst. After Lin Feng's group entered the Jingmen City province, they parted ways not long after. Lin Feng, Zhong Wei, and Xiao Ran rushed to the Fu residence, while Ling Chongqing, Qin Ku, and Tang Miao rushed to the Hanlin Academy. The Fu residence was located in the north of the Jingmen City province, and was relatively far away. The Hanlin Academy was located in the south of the central region, and was closer. It was not far from the provincial governor's residence, so they could save some time. When Ling Chongqing's group arrived at the Hanlin Academy, they found that although there were still a few buildings left, most of them were in ruins. The buildings were empty and the corpses were buried. No one knew where they went. Qin Ku was worried. "Lord Ling, can you go to my house to take a look?" "Let's go, hurry up," Ling Chongqing said in a low voice. "Thank you," Qin Ku said gratefully. On the other hand, Tang Miao silently followed the two of them. He didn't know where his teacher had gone or if he had survived this calamity. Moreover, looking for a person in the huge Jingmen City province was like looking for a needle in a haystack. How could one find a thin needle in the vast sea? His only hope now was to go to the place where many people were gathered. He hoped that he could see the figure of his teacher in the vast sea of people. He had no clue at this time, so it did not matter where he went. On the other side, Lin Feng, Zhong Wei, and Xiao Ran also encountered the same situation. The Fu residence was empty, and the degree of damage far exceeded the Hanlin Academy. "Let's look elsewhere," Lin Feng sighed. "Our time is limited. If there is nothing here, we must hurry to Jianglong County." Actually, in his heart, he hoped that Lin Yun and his group had already escaped from Jianglong County. That way, even if he couldn't find them in a short period of time, as long as they were still alive, there would always be a chance to meet them. Xiao Ran looked worried. "I hope they've all escaped." The provincial governor's residence. Han Lin, iron like a hook, Luo Yong, and the others gathered once again. Their expressions were cold, and their eyes carried the intent of facing death with equanimity. For the sake of a chance of survival, and for the sake of creating an opportunity for their surviving juniors to escape, this battle was unavoidable. As long as one of them could escape, their deaths would be worth it. The imperial capital was too far away. By the time the imperial capital's reinforcements arrived, everyone in Jingmen City would have died more than 10 times. They couldn't afford to wait. "Everyone, good luck," Han Lin said in a deep voice. "Good luck." The rest of the people looked at each other and said in unison. Fu Yuanshan pulled out his long sword. Under the sunlight, it flickered with a cold light. He glanced at Fu Yi in the crowd and smiled. "Fu Yi, live well. This is your father's last wish." Fu Yi choked with sobs. Tears flickered in his eyes. He nodded in grief. "Father, I swear. I will live well." This was his father's last wish. A sorrowful atmosphere shrouded everyone present. Whether it was Han Lin, iron like a hook, Fu Yuanshan, Luo Yong, or the others who were about to fight, or the crowd opposite them, their faces were filled with grief. Their hearts felt like it was being twisted by a knife. Fu Yuanshan took a deep breath, and a smile appeared on his face once more as he said, "Everyone, the three-eyed horned python is a low-rank divine beast. No matter if it's attack power, defense power, or speed, it can be said to be at the limits of rank 8. Even a ninth-stage Earth warrior can be killed by it if he is not careful. Today, a 7th and 8th stage Earth warriors can have the chance to experience the true strength of the three-eyed horned python. How terrifying is it? This is also our honor. Although they had a fierce confrontation with the monster last time, the three-eyed horned python had not used its full strength, and they had also held back. However, it was different this time. This time, they could either escape or die here. There was no other choice. Ha 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 ha! Iron like a hook laugh. That is a low-level divine beast. We can face a low-level divine beast head-on in this life. We can die without regrets. However, was this really the case? Could they really die without regrets? No, they would never forget that name in their hearts, Purple Blood Demon Sage. That was the biggest regret in their hearts. If the Purple Blood Demon Sage didn't die, then they would never die in peace. A solemn and stirring atmosphere spread out, infecting every expert who was about to fight the three-eyed horned python. Looking at the city that had turned into ruins, looking at the land that was different from before, they laughed loudly, but hot tears flowed from their eyes. They were like warriors who were about to rush to the battlefield. Once they left, they didn't know if they could return or escape. When the tragic laughter disappeared, the surroundings once again fell into a deathly silence. Faint sobbing sounds could be heard from the crowd. But at this moment, a hearty laugh came from afar. Ha 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 ha! Fu Yuanshan, Han Lin, you are still alive. Hearing this, everyone looked over subconsciously. They saw Ling Chongqing, Qin Ku, and Tang Miao walking over slowly. Teacher! Qin Ku shouted from afar and quickened his pace towards Han Lin. You! Han Lin and the others' faces darkened, especially Han Lin. He looked at Qin Ku and scolded, "Aren't you in the capital? Why did you come back? Stupid, you are so stupid!" That's enough, Brother Han. Speak less. Ling Chongqing waved his hand. We specially came back to save you. Are you going to scold us as soon as we meet? Han Lin sighed. Brother Ling, you shouldn't have come back. Ling Chongqing disagreed. This is our hometown. If we don't return here, where else can we go? But now, it is no longer our hometown. Han Lin shook his head and said. Fu Yuanshan interrupted and asked, Brother Ling, when you came, didn't you encounter any demonic beasts? Ling Chongqing said, Of course we did, but we dealt with them in passing. Fu Yuanshan and the others looked at each other, confusion on their faces. Could it be that Ling Chongqing and the others didn't encounter the three-eyed horned python? Brother Ling, since you are here, then we won't hide it from you. Luo Yong said in a deep voice, Now, there is a three-eyed horned python in the Jingmen City province. It is a low-level divine beast, and its cultivation can be said to be at the peak of the 8th level. Even a 9th-level earth martial artist might die if he is not careful. We were just preparing to fight to the death with that beast to create a chance for these juniors to escape. He looked at Qin Ku and Tang Miao and continued, Since you are here, then you can consider whether you are willing to accompany us to deal with that three-eyed horned python. After that, he added, I have to tell you first, this is a narrow escape. It is basically impossible to come back alive. Hearing this, Ling Chongqing laughed and said, Isn't it just a three-eyed horned python? Look at how scared you guys are. TSK, where did your usual courage and confidence go? These words immediately made everyone frown. Han Lin said in a deep voice, Brother Ling, the situation is tense now. Please be serious and stop joking. Joking? Ling Chongqing smiled and shook his head. No, I'm not joking. He asked, Do you know where that three-eyed horned python is? Although he didn't know why Ling Chongqing asked this, Han Lin still nodded and said, According to the information we received, that three-eyed horned python is near the original Craftsman's Guild. However, it is extremely fast and can control many low-level beasts, so once we leave the city, it will immediately be attracted. Okay, I know. Ling Chongqing waved his hand. You guys can rest here for a while and have a cup of tea. After I deal with this beast, I will come back and chat with you guys. These words startled the others. Among them, the 8th-level Earth martial artist from the governor's mansion hurriedly said, Big brother, you can't. That beast is extremely powerful. It is not something a rank 8 Earth martial artist can deal with. Even if all of us go, the chance of winning is not more than 10%, let alone you alone? Ling Chongqing laughed and said, If it was before, I definitely wouldn't dare to deal with this beast alone, but now, he said mysteriously, you just have to wait for my good news. With the double-patterned spirit armor, what was he afraid of? After speaking, he didn't give anyone a chance to persuade him. He directly jumped and swept towards the Craftsman's Guild. Teacher, don't worry. Lord Ling will definitely be able to kill that beast, Qin Ke said. He was still very confident in Ling Chongqing. Similarly, Tang Miao didn't look very worried. You guys, sigh, this is nonsense. Han Lin waved his hand. Seeing Ling Chongqing's figure getting further and further away, he said to the others, Let's go, everyone. The plan has changed. We have to fight with that beast in advance. Iron like a hook, Luo Yong and the others all sighed secretly. They looked at each other and then nodded helplessly. In the next moment, a group of level 7 and level 8 masters all jumped up and chased after Ling Chongqing's figure. About half an hour later, they arrived at the Craftsman's Guild. The original Craftsman's Guild had already turned into a pile of crushed stones and wood shavings. In the ruins, a thick smell of blood faintly wafted over. Human corpses were scattered all over the ground, and a huge monster was entrenched there. This was the three-eyed horned python. 3 eyes, a horn on its head, and skin as hard as iron. It was coiled in a circle, as if it was sleeping with its eyes closed. Just as they were about to speak, Ling Chongqing had already attacked. Ha! A deep roar came from Ling Chongqing's mouth due to the accumulation of energy, instantly waking the three-eyed horned python. The three-eyed horned python opened its eyes. Like a bolt of lightning, its coiled body shot straight into the sky from its head down. Han Lin and the others secretly cursed. Brother Ling is too impulsive. Does he really think that he can deal with this terrifying demonic beast by himself? P.S. The second chapter is here. Seeing that many brothers and sisters are concerned about the otaku's body in the book review section, I'm very touched and happy. Thank you for your concern. However, the otaku has no problem. He can still afford to fight. If everyone recognizes the otaku's efforts, please help to vote a few monthly vote. This is the greatest affirmation for the otaku. Thank you everyone, thank you. Chapter 201. Ling Chongqing was a rank 8 Earth warrior. Although he was the provincial governor of Jingmen City, strictly speaking, Ling Chongqing could only be regarded as an intermediate rank 8 Earth warrior. His cultivation was not as good as the master that Fu Yuanshan invited. That person was an advanced rank 8 Earth warrior. In terms of strength, Ling Chongqing might not lose to that master, but it was impossible for him to defeat him. However, even when that master participated in the siege, Han Lin's side still suffered a crushing defeat. This was enough to prove how terrifying the three-eyed horned python's strength was. Han Lin and the others had known Ling Zhongqing for many years. They knew Ling Zhongqing inside out and completely understood Ling Zhongqing's strength. Therefore, they were incomparably certain that in front of this three-eyed horned python, Ling Zhongqing probably had no power to fight back at all. To be able to withstand 3 rounds without dying was already a great blessing. This fellow actually became so impulsive after making a trip to the imperial capital. They cursed in their hearts, but since Ling Zhongqing had already rushed up, they had no choice but to rush up with him. After all, the more power they had, the more hope they had for victory. Although the hope was still very slim, they couldn't let Ling Zhongqing die in the hands of the three-eyed horned python. However, just as they were about to rush out, their bodies came to an abrupt halt. It was too late. Ling Zhongqing was too fast, and he had already attacked before they arrived. The three-eyed horned python's speed was even faster. In the blink of an eye, it had already rushed into the sky, and its long tail whipped towards Ling Zhongqing fiercely. No! They instinctively wanted to close their eyes, unwilling to see that tragic scene. After all, they were friends who had known each other for many years. Even though their relationship wasn't very deep, they could still talk to each other. Now that they saw their friend die miserably before their eyes, a strand of sorrow naturally surged out from their hearts, and they felt a trace of sorrow for the death of their friend. However, they did not close their eyes in the end. Instead, their eyes were filled with anger. All of them were furious, and their strength exploded, causing the gravel and dust on the ground to tremble. A cloud of dust rose from the ground and filled the surroundings, causing the surrounding vision to become hazy and blurry. In an instant, the long saber in Ling Zhongqing's hand collided with the three-eyed horned python's tail fiercely. Clang! Clang! Zap! Zap! The long saber chopped down on the tail of the three-eyed horned python. Sparks flew in all directions, and the sound of metal clashing against stone could be heard. After that, the long blade slashed across the three-eyed horned python's skin. Sparks continued to fly in all directions, and an ear-piercing sound of friction rang out. Roar! The three-eyed horned python let out a roar, as its lightning-like body bent slightly and slowly fell to the ground. Ling Zhongqing didn't react at all and continued to chase downwards. This scene instantly caused Han Lin, Fu Yuanshan, and the others to be dumbstruck. This. Iron like a hook's eyes widened. Am I seeing things? With the power of the three-eyed horned python's tail, not to mention Ling Zhongqing, even a level 9 Earth warrior would be thrown a distance away. However, Ling Zhongqing was not hurt at all. He continued to chase the three-eyed horned python as if nothing had happened. This was simply inconceivable. When did Ling Zhongqing become so powerful? Could it be that Brother Ling has advanced to rank 9 Earth martial artist? Han Lin asked in surprise. No, his origin power is still at level 8. He's still an intermediate level 8 Earth martial artist. Fu Yuanshan looked at Ling Zhongqing, who was fighting the three-eyed horned python, in confusion. Strange, what's going on? Brother Ling's combat power is really too terrifying. Luo Yong said in shock. This guy even ignored the three-eyed horned python's attack. Too terrifying, too incredible! The group was instantly stunned, their minds blank. They never thought that Ling Zhongqing, who had always kept a low profile, had such terrifying combat power. A mere level 8 Earth martial artist was actually fighting a demonic beast with a combat power comparable to a level 9 Earth martial artist, and he had the absolute upper hand. This scene was simply shocking. Ha! Ha! Ling Zhongqing slashed down with his blade and laughed loudly. Beast, if you have the guts, fight with your grandfather to the end. The three eyes of the three-eyed horned python were vertical as they emitted traces of a dark and cold chilliness. In its mind, the flames of fury were similarly torrential. It had never been bullied by a human to this extent. Never. But today, it finally met such a human. It could clearly feel that this human's cultivation was not high, far inferior to it. Moreover, it was a low-level divine beast, and its combat power was more powerful than ordinary demonic beasts. But when it swung its tail with all its strength, that terrifying impact did not cause the slightest harm to this weak human. It was extremely aggrieved in this battle. Although this human's attack did not cause obvious damage to it, its injuries would inevitably worsen after a few more times. Roar! It attacked furiously, opened its bloody mouth, and bit at the human. Unexpectedly, the human didn't dodge at all. Instead, he slashed his saber at its teeth. Clang! The human did not move at all, but it retreated again and again in pain. It felt as if its teeth were loose, and waves of pain came from the roots of its teeth. At this moment, its hatred for the human in front of it deepened. Kill, kill! It swore that it must swallow the human in front of it alive to relieve the hatred in its heart. Ling Zhongqing felt extremely refreshed. This was the most comfortable battle he had ever had in his life, because he could suppress a powerful demonic beast like the three-eyed horned python. Every time he used all his strength, he would definitely push it back a few feet. Moreover, this demonic beast was extremely resistant and could play with him for a long time. Not far below, Fu Yuanshan, Han Lin, and the others already did not dare to watch this scene. Tragic, too tragic. However, the tragic one was not Ling Zhongqing, but that three-eyed horned python. Yes, at this moment, the three-eyed horned python was completely suppressed by Ling Zhongqing. Every strike caused it to howl in pain and retreat again and again. However, its terrifying attacks, which had never failed before, had no effect on Ling Zhongqing at all. It was as if it was hitting a ball of cotton and had no place to exert its strength. Therefore, it was in a situation where it was constantly being beaten. From the beginning, it was suppressed and beaten, unable to change the situation in front of it at all. Roar! The three-eyed horned python's roar turned into a wail of pain in the end, its voice full of grievance. It did not understand. The human in front of it was obviously so weak. Usually, it could whip such a weak human to death with one tail. However, at this moment it was powerless. All its attacking methods did not have the slightest effect. It used all its strength to strike, but to that human it did not hurt or itch at all. There was no reaction at all. In other words, from the beginning to the end it was just being beaten up and did nothing else. It was not that it did not want to do it, but that it was useless even if it did. This kind of battle was too aggrieving. This seriously hurt its young heart. No, it should be the beast's heart. At this moment, Ling Zhongqing's combat power had risen to the highest in history, directly off the charts. At this moment, if God blocked him, he would kill God. If Buddha blocked him, he would destroy Buddha. All the blood in his body was already boiling and burning fiercely. He had never experienced such a satisfying battle, and never felt that he was so powerful. Even if there was a rank 9 Earth martial artist standing in front of him now, he would still dare to rush up fearlessly and fight with the other party. Is Brother Ling crazy, or are we crazy? Fu Yuanshan, Han Lin, and the others could not believe their eyes. The terrifying combat power displayed by Ling Zhongqing completely subverted their imagination. An intermediate rank 8 Earth martial artist could actually exert such terrifying combat power. They simply felt sad, ridiculous, and lamentable for their group of people who were almost wiped out by the three-eyed horned python. They even suspected that this three-eyed horned python was really the one they had besieged before. Why did they feel that this three-eyed horned python was very weak and vulnerable at the first blow? Otherwise, why would Ling Zhongqing be able to suppress it and beat it up, completely oppressing this three-eyed horned python from beginning to end? At this moment, a huge roar came from the front. Roar! They fixed their eyes and saw that the three-eyed horned python was actually rushing towards them. Its speed was as fast as lightning, and they could only barely avoid it. This beast is too cunning. Their hearts sank. It actually sneaked an attack on us at this time. However, just as this thought appeared in their minds, they saw that the three-eyed horned python did not even turn its head back after passing by them. It even let out a wailing sound from its mouth. Whoa! This scene once again dumbfounded Han Lin and the others. The powerful three-eyed horned python, the three-eyed horned python that they were extremely afraid of, was actually beaten up by Ling Zhongqing and fled in panic? Was this still the three-eyed horned python they were familiar with? This was a demonic beast. In their impression, no matter what kind of demonic beast it was, as long as it encountered a human, it would start a battle of life and death. This kind of battle would usually not stop until one side was completely exhausted and died. Only then would the other side stop. Yet this three-eyed horned python had actually fled? Han Lin, Fu Yuanshan, Iron Like a Hook, Luo Yong, and the other earth martial artists looked at each other. Are we seeing things? For a moment, their faces were full of confusion, wondering if they were dreaming. Otherwise, why would such an absurd scene appear? Ling Zhongqing walked over with some regret and said in a regretful tone, "Sigh, what a pity, we still let this beast escape. This beast is too spineless. We just fought for a while and it actually escaped. I just warmed up and haven't had my fill yet." Han Lin and the others stared at him in a daze, motionless, as if they wanted to re-examine him. This guy, not only was his combat strength off the charts, but his acting skills were also improving day by day. "Please, don't look at me like that." Ling Zhongqing touched his nose. "Don't you know that I'm very thin-skinned?" The next moment, Han Lin and the others suddenly felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. P.S. The third update is here. Welcome to all artificers to the artifact. Let's exchange our artifact refining experience. Finally, I'm silently begging for monthly votes. Chapter 202. After joking, Ling Zhongqing's face gradually became serious and he said, "We can't stay here for long. I think we should pack up immediately and hurry to the capital. Besides, we don't know if the three-eyed horned python has companions nearby. If there is such a powerful beast besides the three-eyed horned python, then our situation will be even more dangerous." Everyone agreed with his words. Han Lin said, "Then let's go back now to gather people and leave immediately." "That's the best." Ling Zhongqing nodded. On the way back, Fu Yuanshan hesitated and asked, "Brother Ling, the strength you showed just now, it seems to be beyond your expectations?" Ling Zhongqing laughed. "I know you must be very curious." Hearing this, everyone's attention was turned to him. He didn't hide it and said frankly, "The reason why I can fight with the three-eyed horned python without any scruples is that I have a treasure that can block its attack." Block the enemy's attack, treasure, this made everyone think of something. Spirit armor. Fu Yuanshan said in surprise. "Brother Ling went to the capital this time and got a spirit armor? Congratulations, Brother Ling." Han Lin suddenly came to a realization and said with an envious look, "Among our group, only Brother Fu has such a rare item. If Fu Yuanshan didn't have a one-pattern spirit armor, then he would have died when he was attacked by the three-eyed horned python. After all, he was only a 7th-level Earth warrior. Even with the one-pattern spirit armor, it was difficult to resist the attack of the three-eyed horned python. But Luo Yong still frowned and said, "No, the one-pattern spirit armor's defense is strong, but it can't ignore the attack of the three-eyed horned python. Unless this spirit armor is worn by a 9th-level Earth warrior." He looked at Ling Zhongqing. "Brother Ling, is it really one-pattern spirit armor?" Everyone thought about it carefully and was confused again. A rank 8 Earth warrior wearing a 1-grain spiritual armor could indeed be on par with the three-eyed horned python, and even have a slight advantage. However, it was impossible for him to completely ignore the three-eyed horned python's attack like Ling Zhongqing. Such a defense even surpassed that of a rank 9 Earth warrior, and was about the same as a rank 9 Earth warrior wearing a 1-grain spiritual armor. Therefore, they were almost certain that the treasure Ling Zhongqing spoke of was not the one-patterned spirit armor. "Who said it's a one-patterned spiritual armor?" Ling Zhongqing rolled his eyes. "You guessed it yourselves. I never admitted it." Fu Yuanshan asked, "Then dare I ask, Brother Ling, what treasure are you referring to?" "Of course it's spiritual armor." Ling Zhongqing said, other than spiritual armor, have you seen any other treasures that can increase defense? When everyone heard this, they were instantly confused. It was spiritual armor and not spiritual armor. What was Ling Zhongqing trying to say? Seeing everyone's confused and puzzled expressions, Ling Zhongqing laughed and said, "To tell you the truth, my treasure is indeed a spiritual armor, but it's not a 1-grain spiritual armor. It's a 2-grain spiritual armor." He dragged out the words, 2-grain spiritual armor, as if he was afraid that everyone could not hear him clearly. His tone was also proud and very annoying. 2-grain spiritual armor. Fu Yuanshan, Han Lin, Luo Yong, and Iron Like a Hook all widened their eyes. "How is it possible?" Han Lin said, 2-grain spiritual armor is very valuable. Not to mention you and me, even those rank 9 Earth Warriors would not be able to afford it. What's more, this thing can only be found by chance. The difficulty of refining it is even higher than a 3-grain spiritual weapon. Even if a 6-star weapon refiner were to refine it, the failure rate would be extremely high. How did you get the 2-grain spiritual armor? They knew Ling Zhongqing very well and naturally would not believe his words easily. No one believes me when I speak the truth? Ling Zhongqing did not know whether to laugh or cry. My 2-grain spiritual armor was given to me by a noble. Not only me, Brother Han Lin, your disciple Qin Ku also has a 2-grain spiritual armor. That Tang Miao also has one. Other than that, there are also a few people who have 2-grain spiritual armor. He said with a faint smile, in short, everyone who came back with us has a 2-grain spiritual armor. When these words came out, Han Lin and the others were even more frightened. What a precious treasure was a 2-grain spiritual armor! Since when could such a treasure be mass-produced? Usually, it was rare for them to see a 2-grain spiritual armor in decade. But now, they learned from Ling Zhongqing that many of these 2-grain spiritual armors seemed to have appeared at once. Had the world changed, or were they unable to keep up with the development of this changing world? All right, don't think too much about it. This kind of thing depends on luck. I was lucky and got the dual-pattern spirit armor without paying anything. You guys are unlucky. Even if you go bankrupt and work for someone else, you might not be able to get it. Although Ling Zhongqing's words made sense, anyone who heard it would be unhappy. Now, we should hurry and arrange for people to leave the city and rush to the imperial capital, and not be entangled in this problem. When everyone heard this, they did not think too much. Just as Ling Zhongqing said, everything was fate. But after walking for a distance, Ling Zhongqing suddenly looked at Luo Yong beside him. "Brother Ling, do you need something?" Luo Yong was puzzled. Ling Zhongqing said in a low voice, "Brother Luo, if I remember correctly, you should have some conflict with Lin Feng, right?" Lin Feng? At the mention of this name, Luo Yong's expression changed, but then, he smiled bitterly. Now, countless of my disciples have died, and only Li Qingyang is far away and is fine. Compared to this, Lin Feng's revenge is not worth mentioning. Moreover, that Lin Feng is also a genius of my generation in Jingmen City province. At this point, if I deal with him, I'm afraid the countless people of Jingmen City province. Speaking up to this point, he stopped, his mouth full of bitterness. Only now did he remember that Jingmen City province seemed to no longer exist. Countless people were either dead or injured, and those who survived were probably not more than 10%. Ling Zhongqing looked at Luo Yong deeply and said, "You and I have known each other for a while, so I'll give you a piece of advice. It's best not to provoke Lin Feng, or else, your end will be very miserable. Lin Feng is no longer the little genius from before. That's all I have to say. Whether you listen or not, it's all up to you." Hearing this, Luo Yong frowned. He believed that Ling Zhongqing would not speak without thinking, but wasn't Ling Zhongqing's words too alarmist? No matter what, he was still very grateful for Ling Zhangqing's reminder. He said, "Thank you, Brother Ling, for your righteous reminder. I will remember this." Ling Zhangqing nodded. "It's good that you can listen. We have to hurry." After a while, the group returned to the governor's mansion. "Teacher," Qin Ku said respectfully, with a trace of gratitude in his words. He had just seen his parents in another house. According to his parents, this time, fortunately, Han Lin sent people to rescue them. Otherwise, his parents would have died in the mouths of demonic beasts. This kindness was no less than the kindness of teaching. Han Lin waved his hand and said, "Let's not talk about other things first." Everyone immediately prepared dry food, fresh water, clothes, and other necessities. "In a while, we will depart for the capital." Everyone immediately let out a sigh of relief. One of them asked, "Sir, has that monster been killed by you all?" "That monster is still alive," Han Lin said. "But it doesn't dare to provoke us for the time being. So, we must hurry and leave this place because we are worried that this beast will attract other demonic beasts. In this way, our situation will be even more dangerous." Although they did not know how Han Lin and the others drove away the three-eyed horned python, seeing his solemn vow, everyone immediately believed 80%. At this time, Qin Ku walked over and handed over an item to Han Lin. He said, "Teacher, please accept it." Han Lin asked doubtfully, "What is this?" Qin Ku slowly lifted the cloth on top, instantly revealing the item inside. "Spiritual armor. Double-patterned spiritual armor. Quickly put it away." Han Lin's gaze swept around and immediately scolded in a low voice, "Don't show off your wealth. Don't you even understand this principle?" Qin Ku shook his head and said, "Teacher, we need you to escort us along the way. The stronger you are, the safer we will be." He said with an extremely firm attitude, "Please accept it, teacher." "Brother Han Lin, Qin Ku is right. You should accept it first," Ling Chongqing said at this time. "This way our trip will be safer. Otherwise, if we really encounter two powerful demonic beasts like the three-eyed horned python, then everyone here will die." Hearing Ling Chongqing's advice, Han Lin pondered for a moment and finally nodded. "Okay, I will temporarily keep it for you. When we arrive at the capital, I will return it to you." After that, he urged again, "Everyone, hurry up and pack up. The situation now is urgent. Every moment of delay increases the danger." Hearing this, everyone immediately dispersed and packed their bag. While everyone was busy, Fu Yi looked into the distance and said in surprise, "Teacher?" Han Lin, Fu Yuanshan and the others also smiled and said, "Lin Feng." Ling Chongqing also smiled and said, "Mr. Lin. How is the situation?" Lin Feng asked impatiently as soon as he arrived. "Heavy casualties," Ling Chongqing said in a deep voice. "I am preparing to take them to the capital immediately. There are countless demonic beasts here, and the number is increasing day by day. If we continue to stay here, I am afraid we will die in the mouths of demonic beasts sooner or later." Lin Feng nodded and said, "Okay, I will trouble you to protect the people here. I still have to go to Jianglong County." "No problem." "Oh right." Lin Feng suddenly thought of something and turned to Fu Yi saying, "Fu Yi, you should also go to the capital with your father. When I arrive, I will find a way to contact you." "Teacher, what about you?" Fu Yi asked worriedly. "Haha, you don't have to worry about my safety," Lin Feng said with a smile. "Do you see this senior beside me? He is the current imperial teacher of Zhao, Master Zhong Wei. His Majesty specially arranged for Master Zhong to protect my safety, so you don't have to worry at all." Master Zhong. Hearing this, everyone was shocked and immediately saluted. Zhong Wei smiled and waved his hand, saying, "Everyone, there is no need to be so polite. I am now only Mr. Lin's guard, that is all." Even though that was the case, the gazes with which the crowd looked to Zhong Wei were filled with incomparable reverence. It was much more respectful than when they looked to Lin Feng. Zhong Wei's name was known all over the world. He was the #1 person in Zhao. He was worthy of their respect. Before you leave, I will give you another gift. Lin Feng smiled and took out an item from his sleeve. He handed it to Fu Yi, saying, "You can use it yourself or give it to your father for now. Anyway, from today onwards this is yours." Fu Yi took it and looked. Instantly, he was shocked. Fu Yuanshan, Han Lin, Iron Like a Hook and the others also looked over curiously. However, when they saw the item clearly, they were also shocked. This is double-striped spiritual armor. God, what kind of fortuitous encounter did Lin Feng have? He actually gave away the double-striped spiritual armor like this? Looking at his indifferent appearance, did he not know this was a treasure that even a 9th-stage Earth warrior would go crazy for? P.S. The 4th update is available. Welcome everyone to join. Requesting monthly votes. Why are the monthly votes not moving? Chapter 203. Other than Ling Chongqing, Qin Ku, and Tang Miao, everyone else was stunned by Lin Feng's generosity. When had they ever seen someone give such a precious gift? Not to mention them, even Zhao Duo, the Emperor of Zhao, would not be able to give away such a rare treasure. Zhao Duo was the ruler of the kingdom of Zhao, the son of heaven who controlled the lives of millions. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was the wealthiest person in the kingdom of Zhao. However, even he was powerless to give away the dual-rune spirit armor. It was not that the entire imperial palace could not produce a dual-rune spirit armor, but a rare item like the dual-rune spirit armor should be given to someone who could better utilize it, such as the 3 supreme protectors. Therefore, in the entire imperial palace, only the 3 supreme protectors had the double-striped spiritual armor. The rest, including Zhong Wei, only had a single-striped spiritual armor. Even so, Zhong Wei's single-striped spiritual armor was envied by many level 9 Earth warriors. They had a new understanding of Lin Feng in their hearts. Just as Ling Chongqing had said, the current Lin Feng did not seem to be the genius of the younger generation who needed their support. Just this double-striped spiritual armor had quietly revealed a lot of information. But this is the double-striped spiritual armor. They inexplicably felt a surge of jealousy in their hearts. Such a precious treasure, to give away just like that. They really wanted to ask Lin Feng, "Do you really not know the value of the double-striped spiritual armor?" But it seemed that Lin Feng really did not care about the double-striped spiritual armor. Fu Yuanshan's eyes were burning. He really wanted to reach out and take it, but he restrained himself. This gift was given by Lin Feng to Fu Yi, and had nothing to do with him. Moreover, he and Lin Feng did not have much of a relationship. If not for his relationship with Fu Yi, perhaps he would not even know Lin Feng. "Teacher, this," Fu Yi said, "please forgive me, I cannot accept it." Only the heavens knew that when everyone heard Fu Yi's words, their hearts were broken. Fu Yi actually refused to accept such a treasure. This was simply unforgivable. Lin Feng was puzzled. "This is a gift that Master has prepared for you. Why don't you accept it?" Just now, this disciple heard the senior's words and roughly understood the use of this treasure. Compared to this disciple, Master needs it more, Fu Yi said solemnly. Hearing this, Lin Feng was quite gratified, but he shook his head and said, "I don't need this double-striped spirit armor, because I have one myself." He smiled and said, "If I didn't have one, why would I give it to you? Alright, take it. This isn't some rare treasure. If there's a chance in the future, I'll give you an even better spiritual armor." How could this not be considered a rare treasure? Hearing this, everyone almost couldn't breathe. If this was not considered a rare treasure, then what else in the world could be considered a rare treasure? Could it be that in Lin Feng's eyes, Only things like mountain spirits and perfect-grade materials were considered rare? Seeing that Fu Yi was still hesitating, Lin Feng was instantly displeased. Master wants you to take it, so take it. Don't tell me you won't even listen to Master's words? All right, Fu Yi said in a low voice. Thank you, Master. Immediately, he took the double-striped spirit armor and handed it to Fu Yuanshan. Father, use it first. When I need it, you can give it to me. Fu Yuanshan hesitated for a moment and did not take the double-striped spirit armor. Instead, he looked hesitantly at Lin Feng. Since Fu Yi gave it to you, then you can use it for the time being. Lin Feng did not fuss over it and instead said, When this matter is over, I'll think of a way to get you a double-striped spirit armor alone. A promise was given out just like that. Everyone's eyes were about to turn red. Lin Feng agreed to give Fu Yuanshan a double-striped spirit armor so easily? Please, this was a double-striped spirit armor, and not a double-striped mortal armor, all right. Looking at Lin Feng's appearance, he was completely treating the double-striped spirit armor as cabbage by the roadside. Everyone really wanted to dig open Lin Feng's head to see if he knew the value of the double-striped spirit armor. Fu Yuanshan was actually a little overwhelmed by the favor and hurriedly shook his head. No, 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 there's no need. All right, it's settled then. Lin Feng completely ignored Fu Yuanshan's words. I still have to hurry to Jianglong County, so I won't stay here any longer. Everyone, see you in the capital. Seeing that Lin Feng was about to leave, the group was somewhat reluctant. It was not that they were reluctant to part with Lin Feng, but they were reluctant to part with the double-striped spirit armor. What happened to giving one to each person? Why was it that only Fu Yuanshan had it? At this time, they could also see that Fu Yuanshan was also basking in the glory of Fu Yi, his only son. If not for Fu Yi's existence, would Lin Feng give him a double-striped spirit armor that was worth tens of thousands of gold? It was more like a dream. It seems that raising a good son is more important than anything else. They could only sigh with a bitter smile in their hearts. Their hearts were incomparably bitter. Why didn't they have such a son? At the same time, they were also incomparably regretful. If they had known that this day would come, they would have worked hard to build a good relationship with Lin Feng and thought of ways to help Lin Feng. What a pity, what a pity. Everything was already in the past. It was useless to regret now. Fu Yuanshan, on the other hand, was deeply moved in his heart. He felt a strong sense of pride for his own child, but at the same time, he was also somewhat depressed. He, a 5-star artificer, actually had to rely on his own son to obtain a double-patterned spirit armor. He discovered that his own son seemed to be doing much better than him. With this thought, he looked at Fu Yi. Fu Yi could feel Fu Yuanshan's gaze and could only innocently blink his eyes. Lin Feng had just taken a few steps when he stopped and asked, "Oh right, I wonder if you know about the Lotus Mercenary Group?" Han Lin was startled for a moment and said, "Is it that second-rate mercenary group from Jingmen City? You know?" Lin Feng turned around and shifted his gaze to Han Lin. "If you're talking about this Lotus Mercenary Group, then I think I should know a little." Han Lin didn't know about the entanglement between Lin Feng and the Lotus Mercenary Group and spoke the truth. Speaking of which, this Lotus Mercenary Group's luck is quite good. Not long ago, I issued a mission and it just so happened that the Lotus Mercenary Group accepted it. The mission's destination was a mountain called Kaki in Lianyun City Province. A few days before the disaster, the Lotus Mercenary Group left Jingmen City Province and just so happened to escape the disaster. Lin Feng asked, "Then do you know the comprehensive strength of the Lotus Mercenary Group?" "Haha, it's just a second-rate mercenary group." Han Lin smiled indifferently and said, "That mercenary group's leader broke through to the 7th rank not long ago. In addition, most of the members of the Lotus Mercenary Group have low strength and are nothing to worry about." Of course, only an expert like him was qualified to say such words. If it was an ordinary person, a 7th rank Earth warrior would definitely be a super powerhouse that could never be provoked. I understand. Lin Feng looked pensive and then said, Senior Han, if you believe me, then go to the capital and wait for me. When I return to the capital, I will also give you a double-striped spirit armor. After saying that, he cupped his hands and said, Farewell. After a moment, the figures of Lin Feng, Zhong Wei and Xiao Ran disappeared. But before he left, he said a sentence that made everyone upset. Just by answering his question, you can get a double-striped spirit armor? When did the double-striped spirit armor become so worthless? Or, Han Lin's answer just now was a bit too valuable. One double-striped spirit armor after another was given away by Lin Feng like cabbages. Everyone's hearts also broke with a crack. Everyone looked at Han Lin with envious eyes. Although it was hard to believe, with Lin Feng's character, these words shouldn't be a joke, right? Luo Yong said sourly, Brother Han Lin, congratulations! Cough cough. Han Lin also didn't understand the situation, but it seemed that he had inadvertently obtained a double-striped spirit armor. Was it like this? He thought he was dreaming. He waved his hand and said, I haven't gotten the item yet. You congratulate me too early. Brother Han Lin, you don't have to worry about this. Ling Chongqing spoke at this time. To Mr. Lin, the double-striped spirit armor is really not a rare item. So, you can relax. When Mr. Lin returns, there will definitely be a double-striped spirit armor for you. On this point, I, Ling Chongqing, can vouch for Mr. Lin. If Mr. Lin doesn't give it to you, then I will use mine to fill in for Mr. Lin first. What a joke! Lin Feng was a 5-star armament master who could forge a 3-striped spirit armor. Why would he care about a double-striped spirit armor? Mr. Lin? Hearing Ling Chongqing address Lin Feng like this for the second time, everyone instantly paid attention. They could guess that something must have happened to Lin Feng. Otherwise, Lin Feng wouldn't have so many double-striped spirit armors, whose value was comparable to the entire treasury of the royal family. At the same time, Ling Chongqing wouldn't be so respectful to Lin Feng. Luo Yong sighed inwardly. Looks like I really need to change my attitude towards Lin Feng. In the distance, after Lin Feng and the other two left the city, they mounted their horses again and sped towards Jianglong County. On horseback, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Lotus Mercenary Group, no matter where you escape to, I will find you. Whether it was to avenge his father or for the incomplete map of the Mountain Soul, he had to find the Lotus Mercenary Group. Hiya! A few loud shouts attracted the surrounding demonic beasts. However, with a light flick of Zhong Wei's finger, a few demonic beasts that charged over were annihilated. With this rank 9 Earth warrior accompanying him, it indeed saved Lin Feng a lot of time and also reduced some danger. Even if they didn't sleep or rest, they still needed to spend at least a day and a night from Jingmen City Province to Jianglong County. The three of them traveled in silence, their hearts especially heavy. Jingmen City Province had already become a paradise for demonic beasts. They could be seen everywhere. Then, what would the situation be like in Jianglong County? In the blink of an eye, the three of them had already arrived at Jianglong County. However, the time they spent was several hours longer than they had expected. This was because even though the 3 horses were carefully selected, their stamina was still limited. They were unable to withstand such a long period of continuous running without rest. To be able to persist until now and still be alive was already considered extremely good. We're here. Jianglong County. Lin Yun, I'm back. Lin Feng's eyes were brimming with tears. He was extremely excited. After more than 3 months, no, it should be almost 4 months, he finally returned to this familiar land. He just didn't know if the people he cared about were safe and sound. P.S. The 5th chapter is presented. Although it was only a transitional chapter and the content was mostly foreshadowing, the otaku was still very attentive. He tried his best to write a little highlight in every chapter so that it wouldn't be so boring. To be honest, this was very exhausting. Therefore, I also hope that everyone will believe in the otaku and support the otaku. The otaku can guarantee that after the foreshadowing, there will be a big wave of climaxes coming one after another. Finally, I hope that everyone can cast the precious monthly votes in their hands and use more monthly votes to welcome this big wave of climaxes. With everyone's great support, the otaku will have more confidence and motivation to carefully prepare a spiritual feast for everyone. Chapter 204. Arriving at the outskirts of Jianglong County, Lin Feng and Xiao Ran both let out a sigh of relief. Except for a few places that were damaged, the rest of the city was in perfect condition. It seemed that the city had been attacked by demonic beasts, but was not destroyed by the purple blood demon sage himself. Otherwise, the city would have been in ruins instead of in its current state. They will be fine. Lin Feng prayed in his heart and quickened his pace. After entering the city, the scene in the city caused a strange thought to surface in their hearts. Although the streets were deserted, there were still people coming and going. On the contrary, they didn't see any demonic beast. Not long after, they finally saw some demonic beasts, but those demonic beasts had been turned into corpses, including the corpses of rank 8 demonic beasts. Isn't that Lin Feng? After walking for a while, someone finally recognized Lin Feng. Back then, Lin Feng had displayed his skills at the county governor's mansion and stolen the limelight. Now, there was no one in Jianglong County who did not know of him. More than 90% of the county citizens had heard of his name, and those who could recognize him were no less than 10%. Didn't he go to the finals of the Youth Masters Tournament? Why did he come back? God, he actually came back. Doesn't he know that Jingmen City is in danger now? Demonic beasts are everywhere. I heard that Lin Feng has a younger brother in Qinfeng College. I'm afraid he came back to look for his brother. Stupid. Since he was lucky enough to avoid the disaster, why did he come back to die? It seems that you are very famous here. Zhong Wei laughed. Lin Feng said helplessly, Can I be more famous than you, Lord Zhong? The imperial preceptor of Zhao State. Perhaps even the people of the Great Qin Empire and the Han Dynasty had heard of Zhong Wei's name. Zhong Wei laughed, Same to you. Lin Feng changed the topic. Strange, there are not many experts in Jianglong County, and the most powerful one is not more than rank 6. How could they kill these powerful demonic beasts? They saw many corpses of rank 7 demonic beasts, including rank 8 demonic beasts. Although the strength of that class 8 monster beast was far inferior to the 3-eyed horned python, it was still not something that a group of class 6 earth warriors could deal with, right? Hearing this, Zhong Wei also frowned. He carefully observed the demonic beast's corpse and looked at the wounds on it. His expression couldn't help but become serious. There's an expert here. Master? Lin Feng asked, How powerful? He shouldn't be much worse than me. Among the Earth Warriors of the 9th step, his ranking won't be too low. Zhong Wei looked at Lin Feng and said seriously, Although the other party has taken care of the demonic beast, we can't be sure if they are friend or foe before we figure out their identity. You'd better be careful. Lin Feng and Xiao Ran felt a chill in their hearts and nodded at the same time. Passing through the county governor's mansion and the craftsman's guild, they went straight to Qinfeng College. The closer they got to Qinfeng College, the more people there were. In the end, it was so densely packed that it was difficult to move an inch. This scene was similar to the scene in the provincial governor's mansion of Jingmen City when Lin Feng participated in the Young Masters Tournament. The difference was that at this moment, the surrounding people were all frightened, but there seemed to be a trace of hope in their eyes. From their appearance, it could be seen that they were just frightened and not hurt. Seeing Lin Feng and the other two coming, more and more people recognized Lin Feng. The crowd spontaneously made way for them and looked at them silently. The surrounding eyes were filled with surprise, ridicule, and gloating. Perhaps they didn't expect that Linfeng would return to Jianglong County at such a dangerous time. After a while, passing through the crowd, Linfeng and the other two arrived at the gate of Qingfeng College. Hayashi-sensei. The gate guard recognized Linfeng at a glance and shouted in surprise. But then his face turned bitter. Why did you come back? You shouldn't have come back, Sai. Linfeng said in a deep voice, Is the dean here? The dean. The gate guard stammered, The dean is sick in bed. It's not convenient for him to see anyone. Hearing this, Linfeng frowned and said, What happened? He pointed at the gate of the college. Why are all the people gathered here? Also, who killed those monsters in Jianglong County? The guard smiled bitterly. Hayashi-sensei, it's best if you don't ask so many questions. There are some things that I can't say. Seeing that the guard was in a difficult position, Linfeng didn't force him and said, Okay, open the gate. I'll go in first. The two people behind you. The guard was in a difficult position. This is the current imperial preceptor of Zhao, Lord Zhongwei. Linfeng said directly. The one beside him is the new king of the weapon refining school's younger generation. He paused and said expressionlessly, He's also the last disciple of the weapon refining school's 13th elder. With his introduction, the crowd was shocked. The imperial preceptor actually came to Jianglong County. This commoner greets the imperial preceptor. The guard immediately knelt down on one knee. The surrounding people also knelt down. We greet the imperial preceptor. The densely packed crowd knelt on the ground, their voices were full of pleading. Imperial preceptor, please save us. Imperial preceptor must be here to save us, definitely. Imperial preceptor, please be merciful and kill the monsters in Jingmen City to protect our peace. Zhongwei said, Everyone, please rise. This Zhong will do his best. Thank you, Imperial Preceptor. The crowd was grateful and shouted in unison. Linfeng, the main character, was ignored by them. After knowing Zhongwei's identity, the guard no longer had any scruples and knelt down. Imperial Preceptor, please save the Dean and Qingfeng College. Zhongwei glanced at Linfeng, then shifted his gaze to the guard. Okay, you go first. Not long ago, a group of people came to our Jianglong County. They called themselves the Shui family, and their leader was a super powerhouse with unfathomable cultivation. When they came to Jianglong County, they went straight to the dean and asked him to take out some treasure. The dean didn't agree, and the super powerhouse was so angry that he seriously injured the dean. He then sent people to search everywhere, but they didn't find what they wanted. The guard's face was full of anger and hatred. They secretly tortured the dean and killed and injured many students. Hearing this, Linfeng was shocked and tensed up. It was also at this time that disaster happened. Countless demonic beasts came from the north and rushed into our county. The weak ones were killed by the county magistrate, Mr. Han. However, even Mr. Han couldn't do anything about the strong ones. Many people died at the hands of the demonic beasts. The guard's voice was full of sorrow. The dean bemoaned the state of the universe and pitied the fate of mankind. When he saw the heavy casualties, he finally gave a condition. As long as the Shui family powerhouse agreed to his condition, he was willing to give the treasure to the Shui family powerhouse. The dean's condition was for the Shui family powerhouse to protect the safety of the people of Jianglong County and escort the millions of people who survived to a safe place. Hearing this, whether it was the surrounding people or Linfeng, Zhongwei, and Xiao Ran, they were all in awe. This dean was indeed an elder worthy of respect. However, when he said this, the guard was extremely angry, but the Shui family powerhouse didn't agree to the dean's condition. The leading powerhouse only agreed to help clear the demonic beasts in Jianglong County, but refused to escort the people out of Jianglong County. And his reason was actually, Actually, the people of Jianglong County are lowly people. Lowly people don't have the right to be escorted by him. When he said this, his lungs were about to explode from anger. Every time he thought about it, his face would turn ugly. If not for the fact that his strength was inferior to the other party, he would have rushed up and fought with his life on the line. Lowly people? At this moment, the surrounding people also had ugly expressions on their faces. Although they were only the lowest level of the Empire's commoners and their status was far from those officials, powerful earth warriors, earth mages, and weapon refiners, being called lowly people was not something they could tolerate. Bah! I thought they were good people and were here to protect us. In the end, things turned out to be like this. Let's go. If we lowly people die, so be it. How dare we trouble them to protect us? So what if they're powerhouses? So what if they're powerhouses? A high and mighty powerhouse can look down on us lowly commoners? It doesn't matter if we die sooner or later. I'm not begging him any more. The surrounding commoners left with their hands folded. Although they were afraid of death and admitted that their status was low, how could they tolerate being called lowly people and being humiliated in such a blatant way? Yes, we are lowly people. We are lowly people. Sir, please save us lowly people. Yes, sir. Please save us. I can be your cow or horse. I can do anything for you. Human nature was very complicated. Some people cared about their dignity and left in a fit of anger. Naturally, there were also people who were greedy for life and afraid of death. They could give up all their dignity for their lives. For example, at this moment, when most of the commoners had left, there were still a few people who did not care about the gazes of outsiders and begged bitterly. Some did it for themselves, while others did it for their families to survive. Should he despise them? Under the threat of death, different people had different reactions. Lin Feng took a deep breath and asked, "Are they still in the academy?" "Yes, they are all in the academy." The guard nodded and pleaded, "Imperial tutor, please uphold justice for the old principal." Until now, he had not figured out that among the three of them, the one who was in charge was not Zhong Wei, but Lin Feng and Hayashi-sensei. Lin Feng and the other two looked at each other. Then, Lin Feng said, "Let's go and meet this so-called Shui family." Zhong Wei's expression was also cold. Shui family? Humph. Although the Shui family is powerful, they are not nobler than the people of the kingdom of Zhao. However, before that, Lin Feng had to meet Lin Yun, Qiao Wen, and Jiang He. That was his ultimate goal in returning to Jianglong County. Under the guard's expectant gaze, Lin Feng and the others entered Qingfeng College and went straight to the students' dormitory. However, what the guard did not know was that among the group of students who had been injured by the Shui family, there was a student who had the same surname as Lin Feng. That student's name was Lin Yun. Moreover, this student named Lin Yun was severely injured. Many of his bones were broken. He had been in a coma for several days and had not woken up yet. P.S. The first update is here. I beg for monthly votes, I beg for monthly votes. Can you let the monthly votes fly for a while? Chapter 205. Hayashi-sensei. 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 Along the way from Qingfeng College, he met some students and they all called out to him. But their expressions were worried and their hearts were uneasy. Lin Feng had a rough idea of their current situation, so he understood how they felt. But Lin Feng was puzzled. Why did some of the students look at him with sympathy? It was too strange. Feeling the gazes of the students, Lin Feng felt an inexplicable sense of uneasiness. And this sense of uneasiness grew rapidly in a very short period of time, as if something bad was about to happen, or had already happened. Lin Yun. Lin Feng's heart sank and he immediately quickened his pace. After a while, they arrived at the student dormitory area. Following the route in his memory, Lin Feng quickly arrived outside Lin Yun's dormitory. He took a deep breath, raised his hand, and was about to knock on the door. Creak. At this time, the door opened automatically, and his hand froze in midair. When the student saw it, he immediately lowered his head and shouted, "Hayashi-sensei!" Lin Feng used to come to this dormitory occasionally, and he was quite familiar with the other students in this dormitory, so the student recognized Lin Feng at a glance. Lin Feng anxiously asked, "Is Lin Yun here?" The student's eyes flickered, and he hesitantly said, "Lin Yun is not here." "Where did he go?" Lin Feng was even more flustered, and his voice was filled with anxiety. He is injured, and he is still in the school's hospital." The student whispered, "Hayashi-sensei, please calm down." Calm down? As soon as he heard that Lin Yun was injured and sent to the hospital, Lin Feng's face suddenly changed, and he couldn't listen to the rest of the student's words. Xiao Ran's face was also extremely ugly, and his fists couldn't help but clench. "Let's go." Lin Feng turned around and quickly walked towards the academy's medical hall. About 10 minutes later, they arrived at Qingfeng College's medical center. Lin Feng walked in quickly and asked a doctor directly, "Excuse me, which room is Lin Yun in?" The doctor looked at Lin Feng in surprise and said, "You are Lin Feng Hayashi-sensei?" His tone was not very certain. "I am Lin Feng," Lin Feng said in a deep voice. Hearing this, the doctor was pleasantly surprised. "Hayashi-sensei, you're back." Lin Feng asked again, "Excuse me, do you know which room is Lin Yun in?" The doctor reacted and remembered the relationship between Lin Feng and Lin Yun, and his face suddenly became serious. He said, "Hayashi-sensei, Lin Yun's injuries are extremely serious. Both of his arms are fractured, the bones in his left foot are broken, and 5 of his ribs are broken. His skin is severely injured, and his brain is severely injured. His jaw is shattered. Although we have used many precious medicinal herbs to save Lin Yun, it is unknown whether he can wake up. Even if he wakes up, he will never be able to recover and can only spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. I hope that Hayashi-sensei is mentally prepared." The so-called doctor was particular about facts. Lin Yun's injuries were just as he said. It was uncertain whether he could wake up. However, with every word the doctor said, Lin Feng's face turned uglier. When the doctor finished speaking, the anger in Lin Feng's heart burned fiercely, and a terrifying aura burst out from his body. This was the aura of a rank 3 Earth warrior, and the spiritual power of a rank 7 Earth mage. At this moment, his mind was blank, his eyes were blood-red, and his aura was almost out of control. It is still unknown whether he can wake up. Even if he wakes up, he can only spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. These 2 sentences were like sharp daggers that fiercely stabbed into his heart, twisting it fiercely. This was his younger brother, his biological younger brother. He opened his mouth and wanted to roar, but the sound was in his throat, and he could not roar out. He could only clench his fists in pain and lower his head. A low and painful voice, like that of an injured beast, came out intermittently, "Ah ah." 2 streams of tears rolled down his face. Those tears contained remorse, self-blame, and even heartbreak. Who hurt Lin Yun? Xiao Ran's face was ashen, and his voice was so cold that it made people tremble. Zhong Wei looked at the 2 silently, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The doctor was shocked, and under that terrifying aura, he cowered and said, It's a Shui family expert, Teacher Shui instigated." "Shui family expert." Zhong Wei frowned. Things seemed to have gotten out of hand. At the same time, Lin Feng suddenly raised his head. Those blood-red eyes were filled with terrifying anger and hatred, as if he wanted to swallow people alive. He gritted his teeth and said word by word, "Shui family expert. Shuiren." A shocking killing intent exploded from Lin Feng's body in an instant. That killing intent seemed to have materialized, and even the surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped. However, this killing intent was quickly retracted, or perhaps it was forcefully suppressed by him. His emotions recovered in an instant, and his face was expressionless, so calm that it was somewhat terrifying. "Where is Lin Yun?" His voice was very calm, but in that calmness, there seemed to be endless pressure, forcing people to not dare to look at him. Although the doctor was terrified, he still mustered up his courage and said, "Student Lin Yun can't be disturbed in any way now, or else it may cause his injuries to worsen rapidly." Lin Feng took a deep breath and asked again, "Where is that group of Shui family experts?" "Hayashi-sensei, don't be rash." The doctor was frightened and advised, Tell me, where are they?" Lin Feng interrupted him and said calmly. But his voice was bone-chilling, and it made people tremble. The doctor's heart trembled, and he said in a low voice, They are simulating a combat arena." The next moment, Lin Feng turned around and walked out of the medical hall. "Thank you." Leaving behind this voice, it echoed in the medical hall. Only after Lin Feng and the other two left did the doctor sit on the ground, panting heavily, his whole body soaked in sweat. Hayashi-sensei's strength is actually so terrifying. He was almost suffocated by the pressure just now, and his whole body was covered in cold sweat, like a small boat in the sea that could be destroyed at any time. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and his face changed greatly. He stood up and rushed out of the medical hall, running towards the office of the year group leaders and the others. Soon, he rushed into the office. Before the year group leaders could reprimand him, he anxiously said, "Not good." Hayashi-sensei went to find that group of Shui family experts. "Hayashi-sensei?" The year group leaders frowned. "Which Hayashi-sensei?" During this period of time, the dean had been seriously injured by a group of Shui family experts, and was being held hostage. They were already in a terrible fix, and now that a Hayashi-sensei had suddenly appeared, their mood became even worse. Just which blind fellow actually dared to provoke a powerhouse of the Shui family? The doctor said, "It's Lin Feng, Hayashi-sensei." Lin Feng. The year group leaders were shocked, and they stood up. "Is it the instructor leading the team in the Young Masters tournament? The genius Lin Feng, Hayashi-sensei?" "That's him." The doctor nodded. At this moment, several year group leaders could no longer sit still. Their expressions were extremely heavy as they quickly walked out of the office and headed towards the battle simulation field. No, it should be said that they were running. Several of them hurriedly ran over. Their speed was so fast that it was the fastest they had ever run in their lives. At this time, they didn't have time to investigate the cause and process. They just wanted to hurry over and stop the tragedy that was about to happen. The surrounding instructors were puzzled when they saw the year group leaders rushing towards the combat simulation arena. Could it be that this group of experts was going to play some tricks again? Could it be that they had killed and injured many students, and seriously injured the dean, and it wasn't enough? At this moment, the instructors were also furious. They looked at each other, and then walked towards the combat simulation arena. They had endured enough for a while, and they had never been so sullen. Since they were going to die, then they might as well die with a bang. What's going on? Why are the instructors all walking towards the combat simulation arena? The students were uneasy. Could it be that the conflict has finally unavoidably erupted? The heavy-hearted students hesitated for a moment, and then walked towards the combat simulation arena. At the entrance of the combat simulation arena, Lin Feng and the other two arrived. "Trash of the Shui family, come out!" Lin Feng raised his head, and said indifferently towards the arena. "Trash." This was Lin Feng's position towards the Shui family. There was no need for politeness and courtesy towards trash. When these words reached the combat simulation arena, the group of people inside was so angry that their lungs were about to explode. Trash. This was the first time someone dared to call them that, insulting their Shui family. Led by the rank 9 Earth Warrior of the Shui family, all the members of the Shui family were furious. Good, very good. An old man laughed out of anger. This old man wants to see who has the courage to insult our Shui family. Shui Ren's eyes lit up at this time, and suddenly said, Great Elder, listen to this person's voice, it's very similar to the Lin Feng I mentioned before. Hearing this, the old man was startled, and then said disdainfully, A small Samsung refiner dares to go against our Shui family? Behind them, Xie Qiufeng, who was hanging on a wooden pillar and dying, sighed bitterly in his heart, Lin Feng, oh Lin Feng, why did you come back now? The 8 members of the Shui family slowly walked towards the door of the combat simulation arena, and Shui Ren opened the door for them. The next moment, Lin Feng and the other 2 figures entered the eyes of the Shui family. Similarly, the group of people of the Shui family also entered the sight of Lin Feng and the other 2. You are the trash of the Shui family? Lin Feng said casually, Say it, how do you want to die? The second place has caught up, urgently asking for monthly votes. Is it only the otaku himself who is anxious here? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.